Night, good night, good night, good night, good night. This is Marcia Weeks, and you are watching the Marcia Weeks Show, and we are coming to you from Barbados, live from Barbados. Good night, you all. Good night, you all. Hey, 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 hey. I'm coming to you live from Barbados. Ha! Can you all hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? In Jamaica, we say, do you hear me? Hey, do you hear me? Good night, you all. Good night, good night, good night, good night. Coming to you live. Remy was the first on. She said, pleasant good evening, loyal, patriotic opposition. Grace and peace be unto you. Gather your people and get ready for our Sunday session outside. We outside, Lions unite, she says. And CG says, good night. Tracy Barrow says, good night, my wonderful people. Blessings unto you. You give me joy when I come on and you are on before me. Listen, oh goodness, I was in town today and I was rushing to get here. Natasha C said, good night all. And V Hoy, I didn't call your name. Awesome Friday. Oh gosh, PM to you all. Oh goodness. And Square 4 said Westburn Mall is at the bottom of Baxter's Road going towards Eagle Hall on the left hand side. Wow, know that mall all my life, and first time I know it had a name. And guess what? The first roadside parliament in Barbados is going to happen at Westburn Mall. Isn't that awesome? This Sunday, 5 o'clock. Philip said, good night, professors. Waiting for class. Me too. See, I got my book. My book almost written out, you know. My book only have a few more pages inside it, right? And Square 4, Baxter's Road, St. Michael, the city. Yes, we're taking over the city on Sunday night at 5 o'clock. We're taking over the city. Good night to you, ma'am. Natasha Hope. Good night, Patriots. Yes, we're ready. Good night to all ops. Mark Clark, hardworking ops there. And this is Sonia Ashby. Good night, all. In the house, and good night, Trevor Seeley. Trevor Seeley worked on the website that we want to unveil tonight. If Trevor could just put the link of the website. Trevor, can you put the link of the website in the comment section? Thank you so much, Trevor and Lisa and Seeley, your brother R. Seeley. I can't remember his first name, who worked on it, and he's gonna kill me. The other Mr. Seeley, thank you so much. And Rhonda Paris, a blessed and wonderful night to all. Mystic Angel, I'm here, people. Good night. Oh my goodness. Wayne MacD Austin, good night, peoples. Carol Barker, good night. Yes, it's a good night. Why is it a good night? Rocky saying good night to all. Listen, this is some good Bajan greetings. You see my mall 34? Y'all like my mall 34 in the back? Who like my backdrop? We in the city. Listen, it's a lucky. I needed to have one of Baxter's Road, you know. I'm gonna get one of Baxter's Road. Yeah, and Westburn Mall. That's what I should have had in the back there. But we in the city tonight. Anybody like my background? Mall 34. That means I am on Broad Street. Isn't it Broad Street? Am I correct? Broad Street. We are on Broad Street tonight, guys. Oh, Sonia Ashby. Yes, Trevor. Good job, Sonia is saying good job. And you're gonna see the website tonight, guys. And that is all to provide you with great service. And we're preparing so that we can do our streaming live to the website, just in case they kick us off, right? In case they kick us off, in case the yard foes try to get me off YouTube. You know, they tried to get me off Facebook already. I got back on, and anytime, you know, they could try to get me off. Nigel Newton, good night, comrades. a righteous and spirit-directed journey towards a people's democracy in Barbados, a people's democracy, and that is what the roadside parliament is all about, guys. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about, you know. What is a parliament? What is a parliament in a country? The parliament represents the interests of the people and ensures that those interests are taken into account by government. Government is unable to pass laws or raise taxes without the agreement of parliament. You understand that? Government is unable to pass laws or raise taxes without the agreement of the parliament. The only thing that is so odd in Barbados is that the entire parliament makes up the government. Do you understand that? The entire parliament. So we have 30 members of one party in the parliament. Yes? Parliament represents the interests of the people and ensures that those interests are taken into account by the government. When they are one and the same, what do? Then that's when the people rise up. The people rise up and the people begin to defend their rights and their democracy. And that is what is happening on this Sunday, 5 o'clock, Baxter's Road and Westbury Road, Westburn Mall. That's where we're going to be because we are standing up for our rights, our democracy in this country. The government administers government policy, the legislative agenda, taxes, how best to deliver public services and which services and activities funding should be allocated to. That's what the government does. This could include, for example, services and funding for health, education, police, and courts. But remember, though, that all of those laws and all of those that legislature, everything, all the laws and the raising of taxes and everything happens in the parliament. You understand? So I want you to understand when we say roadside parliament, what it is that we are saying. We are saying that we are going to be representing the interests of the people of Barbados and ensuring that those interests are taken into account by the government of Barbados. That is what is happening. That is what we're about. That is what we are committed to. Yes? The parliament works on behalf of the people of Barbados to ensure through questions and requests for information that ministers are answerable for the actions taken by the department or agency under his or her authority. That is what parliament does. When was the last time you heard that happening in parliament? When was the last time you heard questions and requests were being made from ministers and they're being answerable for their actions? When was the last time in the last 5 years that you heard that happen in parliament? That is the Barbados we have come to know. The parliament works on behalf of the people of Barbados to ensure government works and is running efficiently by reviewing new proposals and checking government expenditure and the effect of new laws. When was the last time that happened in Barbados? When was the last time in the last 5 years did that happen in Barbados? When was the last time you heard any checking of government expenditure inside the parliament? So if it doesn't happen inside the parliament, what are we going to do? We are going to create our roadside parliament and we are going to check the government expenditure on the roadside because this is our country. The parliament makes sure that the decisions made are legal, they're fair, non-discriminatory, and support equality. Is that what's happening in our parliament? Is that what's happening with our decisions? Are they legal? They're not even following the legal procedures. We've learned that on this program. Are they fair, or are they in their best interest? Do those decisions support equality? The opposition. What is the opposition? The opposition is the largest non-government party or coalition parties in the parliament after an election. And that's us. Twice the government voted in the people, because there's no way that this government is going to continue to be run without any opposition. So we are the opposition, right? The leader of the opposition appoints members of the opposition to a shadow ministry. So we need to begin to decide what ministry we're going to shadow. The shadow ministry's role, whose role is to shadow the relevant minister by scrutinizing their actions, questioning government policies, and the administration of particular portfolios. The opposition is considered the alternative government and is responsible for creating alternative policies for this country. That is what we are going to do. So let me hear the shadow ministries. Let me see the thumbs up, the opposition. We are going to form those shadow ministries, and we're going to protect this country. We're going to scrutinize their actions. We're going to question the government policies and the administration of particular portfolios. We will become the alternative government in this country. Let me see anybody agreeing with me tonight. Who is agreeing with me? Anybody in agreement with me? Anybody in agreement with me? I see the general there is ready. Let me make sure that he's not refreshing himself. I gotta protect him, you know. I don't want you to see him putting in a chicken wing in his mouth. Yes, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Yes. Yes. People saying yes. I agree. So when we come together, we are going to have to decide what is the ministry we're going to be the shadow. We're going to shadow. Which one we're going to shadow? Because we're going to scrutinize that minister. Eh? Listen, we have enough education in this country. We're smart enough to do it. Huh? This person here talking about what this person says. So Mystic Angel says, Marcia, you believe I was talking to a man last night about the roadside parliament, and he told me, don't care what we do, Bajans can't come together. We were not taught to in our history. This thinking made me so mad with him. Would you believe this kind of thinking still exists? Yes, it still exists, but let me tell you, there's a remnant of people that are coming together. And I know General heard that comment. Welcome, General.
Good night. It's good to be here again tonight. I'm looking forward to a wonderful show again.
Yeah.
It seems as though this show is heard far and wide. I can't go any place now at all unless somebody is talking about this show.
I was in the supermarket and people were coming up to me and giving ideas and telling me they're coming down to the roadside parliament and all of that, right?
I've been contacted even from people overseas because we have a good following overseas as well.
Oh my goodness. Because I think, Bajans are so patriotic and they love their country. And Bajans are up. They are sitting up, they were sleeping, but they're sitting up in the bed. Some of them are off the bed, and putting on their clothes and getting ready. Some still yawning, but, we're going to wait on everybody. So this comment that we don't come together and we don't do anything, I'm no longer speaking that, Mr. Caswell. I used to hear you alone screaming out and talking, and now look how many persons you have supporting you now.
I want a few more. I honestly, our people have been beaten.
Can you come up a little bit more? Yes.
I want a few more. Our people have been beaten and mistreated so badly for so long that it is a bit difficult for them to come forward. You know, like you see people on the march walking up to me and handing me money. I said, this is for the march and this is for this, you know, but they don't want to be seen, you know. And I think we got to get rid of that, because the only thing we have to conquer now is fear. We can do everything else, but the hardest thing to do is to conquer that fear, because people have given you a spirit of fear, and it is pervading this society. And when they explain to people, I say, look, you work in this place. How many people do this job besides you? No, it's a technical job. Nobody else can do it better than us. They were going to train people. I said, so if you withdraw your services, what will happen? The place will go shut down. I said, so how can they victimize you? The nurses. You can't run a hospital without nurses. You can run, you can do all kinds of fancy things, but the nurses are the most important things in the hospital. We had a situation that's just to show you, and nurses who take themselves seriously, and take their job seriously, God bless them. Because I remember I had a case at the hospital. This young lady, she was being victimized. The doctor complained for her, and the other nurses sided with her. And she said the doctor went into the surgery. He scrubbed up, he went in and he did the surgery, and then he came out, went somewhere and come back. I went and scrub again, and she said, you are not touching my patient. You know, and she said, you are not touching my patient. And she was right. But you know, the people gang up against her. Her job was to defend the patient, make sure the patient get the best deal. And if they don't get the kind of backing,
correct.
Yeah, if they don't get the type of backing, even from their colleagues, you know, but she would not. She would not be afraid. She said, "No, this I can't allow him." Said these cheap gloves that I got here, sometimes they burst, and I know he put his hand. So if his hand burst, that glove burst inside that patient going over can happen. He's not going in there.
Right.
And they had it victimized, but the girl, she stood up. And I went with, and I said, well, okay, this ain't done. I shut it down. I'm not going to tell you how, but I shut it down. You know, she's happy now again, but you know, you will need more people like her. She said, no, this is my job, and I'm going to make sure that you don't touch this person unless you go and scrub.
Yeah, you know, and kudos to her for standing up, and you know, and this is what I say to Barbadians when they say, you know, but nothing is going to happen, and you know, you just have to do what is right, and that's what we have seen, Mr. Franklin. That's one thing with Mr. Franklin, is that he sticks to what is right, principle. He sticks to principle. And you know, I'm showing here on the screen here, Mr. Franklin, Sade Williams. She is our world champs bronze medalist, and she was honored a couple of days ago, and it's because of the people of Barbados. People were doing petitions for her to be honored. You know, people were creating a big fiasco on Facebook. Who remember that? Who remember that? And because the government was pressured, there is a big honoring of Sade Williams, and she received 150,000. I always walked through the airport, and I'm saying, when I go through the airport in Jamaica, Mr. Franklin, you see all the athletes, their pictures are up, right? And I would say today, what happened to Sade's picture? Where is, you know, Oba? Where are all these people? And you know, and I'm glad that the people. I'm sorry, I got sidetracked with a comment somebody made there. The people of Barbados requested this. The people of Barbados, they shouted at the top of their lungs and said, we want Sade Williams honored. And now they're honoring her. I'm saying to us, don't give up. That was something that we all came together on. People were you know, writing petitions. People were sending stuff around, you know, to make sure that this girl is honored. So, and we want to we say yes, and we agree with the government, because that's what we wanted. And this is what the roadside parliament is about. We need to come together and decide how we want our country run. And be bold about it, right? Be bold about it. How many of you are happy that Sade is being honored? I love when we honor each other. You know, General, I love that. I love when we give honor
You
where
see,
honor is due.
you see, look, we have so many people in this country that are deserving of honor, but the politicians only see politicians, and some of their service, questionable service, but they go on the night and they make people know they don't call them knights anymore. They call them the most honorable and that kind of thing. But we have people in this country. There's one man I will never forget as long as I live, who I see Neville Baffert is on, and he will probably bear me out on this. One of the people who did more in Barbados for a few generations of Commonwealthians, a guy called Dighton Maynard, Colonel Dighton Maynard. This man, he didn't have any children of his own, but all of us were his children. You know, he was, when I first went to Commonwealth, he was responsible for his scouts. He was responsible for that. He coached hockey. He taught a full-time table like everybody else. I remember one day I saw this, there was a fight, you know, and the guys duking it out. And he walked on the corridor straight, and the fellas that were fighting just step apart because nobody would fight in front of him, you know. As bad as these fellas were fighting, when they saw him coming out, he didn't have to raise his voice. He just walked through, and the fight stopped. You know, that was the kind of measure of the man.
My goodness.
He did so much for so many people in this country, and we have not seen any national honor. But David Thompson didn't live long enough because he and I were discussing it, and he was planning to do so, but then illness took the last part of his
Sorry
career.
about that. Yes, go ahead, please.
And he didn't get around to doing it. But people like him, these are mentors. I know fellas used to try to emulate him, even the way he walked. You know? You imagine? And I remember going to culinary school years after, but afterwards of grandfather, and still see him there coaching hockey. Long retired, you know. But these people don't get honored. But I can tell they're honored in our hearts because not that there are not very many Commonwealthians that will not stand up and
remember
tell you
him. Yes, and
he's
you know
alive.
this is what we have to do. We have to honor the people while they are alive, and that's why I come on here. Is not to flatter you, Mr. Franklin, but it's how we feel in our hearts, how I feel in my heart about you. And I think we need to do that some more because you have stepped out there. You have stepped out there and you have put the country on your shoulders. Look at what's happening now with the prison, right? Because of what you have done. Now there's an investigation going on in the prison. This has to do with our national security. And if people can understand that, you know, I don't know. It's not about making somebody larger than life and all of that and giving them, you know, no, but we give honor where honor is due. And that's what they've done for Sade, and we've asked for it. And it's happening. And why shouldn't we believe that if we ask them to go back to the drawing board with the child protection bill, that they're not going to do it? If we stand up and be firm enough, they will have to do it. Remember, these are the same people who had to run and go back with the when they wanted to do Republic Day. Remember, Mr. Franklin? And the people stood up and said, absolutely not. I don't know why are we thinking we don't have any power?
You see, the problem with the Republic there is that Barra is still in the hearts of Barbadians. He's not forgotten. And everybody knew who Barra was. And that was an affront. It still is an affront to Barra and his memory. You see Neville Baffert right in here, Colonel Dighton Maynard, leadership in every aspect of life, teaching, sports, the military, and everything else. You know, I know this is the sentiment. He is a Commonwealthian throughout, true and true. I don't look. I have the highest regard for teachers. He was a teacher.
Yes.
But he has like top shelf in my estimation. You know, everybody else, every other teacher, you know, but will come second to this man. Here we do, and they're not honoring him. And the thing is, to have to, for the people of this country having to force the government to recognize Shada Williams is embarrassing, because the people should not have to do that. They should do it as a matter of course.
Yes.
You know, they shouldn't have to prompt them, because she's an example now to hundreds of Barbadian children, thousands of Barbadian children. You know,
Correct.
this little girl from Barbados on the world stage. Some of those people when they hear Barbados, they didn't even know what Barbados is until she ran down the track. You know. Trust
Listen,
me.
she doing more than that stupid slogan that they spent all of that money on. Remember the foolish slogan? And look at it. They gave her 150,000. The amount of money that they have spent for tourism, they could have given that to so many of the athletes in Barbados, because when they go and they travel, they are carrying the brand. That's how Jamaica's brand is pushed by Bolt and Shelly Ann and all that, and they actually pay them. They give them money. They give them money. You know, all those artists and athletes are given money from the ministry. The Ministry of Tourism give those athletes money to represent them on the world stage. That's why everywhere you go, you see they have a little kerchief and it have the Jamaica flag. They have on the bandana. They stop in the airport and they dance. There is a little incentive. There is some incentive.
No, but when we give people anything in Barbados, you got political connections. Probably this girl doesn't have any, so she wasn't recognized, because everything in Barbados now has the blight of politics attached to it, and that is shocking. You know, we're not doing ourselves any favor when we refuse to acknowledge greatness in this country, because it is not every day. This is not an everyday occurrence.
Correct. She's third in the world from a small country like this. That is awesome.
You know, and the thing is, if she had the facilities here, you know, she would be first in the world. But we don't have the kind of coaching and equipment that will help produce a top athlete and keep them there.
We don't even have a stadium. We can't see her run in Barbados because there's no stadium. And these people are going on planes every week. A prime minister is gone on a private jet and she's traveling, and we don't even know what's it cost to the taxpayer. We don't know how much money is being spent. How big is it? How big is her entourage that travels with her? And yet still these young people are here. They don't even have a track. We cannot see Sade run in Barbados because there is no track. There's no stadium, nothing for her to run on. And in this is a first world country. This is what we are talking about, first world.
Yeah, you know, that sounds good. You know, they're like the government like slogans. It sounds good, so they will
Little Sade, big Barbados.
Yeah. You know, he's a compliment to me.
I love it. Little Sade, big Barbados. That's it. That is real publicity for our country. That there.
But I am hopeful that the government will get it right, you know. And I'm talking about right the first time. Not having to tell them, you can't do that. And they're gonna argue and fight with them. Like they haven't got no sense. Like there's some idiot children.
Yes.
But I don't.
I have this video here. Finish what you're saying. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, I was saying I don't think it is all lost. We need to get some young people and push them to leadership positions in this country, because right now all the people who are in leadership positions in Barbados today are failing us. All.
Yes. Yes. Yes, and that's why we need some shadow ministers to rise up to begin to scrutinize the work of each ministry and to
I know
speak up
one.
on behalf of the
I know
people. It's
one.
important.
I know one who should be shadow finance. He's here every night.
You're
Kimar,
right. He's here every night. He's here
you know,
every night. I tell you,
I learned
we
so
need
much
them. We
from
need
that.
them.
You know, I learned so much from that young man. You know, I'm not ashamed to say so. I
Yes,
watch his
and that's
videos
what
and I listen
I
to it.
love that.
And I, and I verify. Sometimes I go and try to verify what he's saying because I don't take everybody's word.
Uh-huh.
And I've not found him wanting so far.
Yes,
So
yes,
he
yes,
has my highest respect.
yes, 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 yes. You know, I feel you know, I love when Barbados are honored, and I love when you talk about Kimar like that. And I love when people on here are talking so much good about you. And we have to do that. We have to do that more and to speak the truth and open our mouth when we see things. Now let's look at this. Look at this. That's I'm sure you've seen this video going around, Mr. Franklin. But let's just watch it again.
No, I don't.
There's a here, the doctor coming for one. There's a here, doctor coming
Oh
for two.
yes,
But come
first world, huh?
minister, not your rent, your pool, and again, work somewhere. And you can't get like, real good. Blowing rain. I got paid again. That they too little children there, so many people.
You know, have you seen this? You had seen this video before, Mr. Franklin?
Sadly, yes. Because let me tell you something. I have a problem with that from the point of view that BAJANS are treating each other that way. You know, I always tell
Yes.
people treat people the way you expect to be treated. And I'm sure none of the people who were enforcing that, not allowing those people to come in there, right, would want that to happen to them. Treat people the way you expect to be
Mm-hmm.
treated, and you will never go wrong. Look at there. When I'm walking with snow, the rain come
Mm-hmm.
down, I pick up snow and run busy about the rain. I do one thing. You know,
And
I do
Snow is
that for
the Snow is the dog.
yeah. You know,
Snow is a
and
dog, and look at the way you treat your dog in comparison to how they're treating these people less than animals.
yeah, but when the rain came, you know, and but water running on the road now, both of us getting soaked. But she's right down to the ground, and so I just pick her up, put her on my shoulder, and we head home. Bring her home. I bathe her then and blow dry. She like to get blow dry, you know, so she does that. But if I do that for a dog, why should people treat human beings less? And nobody should have given the order that traditional come, other people come there. From the time the rains that come, you should have let them in. It should never been an issue. We should not treat our people like this. We should not treat each other this way. If you were the shoes were on the other foot, you will not like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I saw it, I watched it again, and I said, well,
Mm-hmm.
I said, yeah, it's Barbados. I know it's Barbados. You hear accents, everything is Barbados, but we can't be so callous, but we are. I don't know if it is people, um, if it has to do with the way you were brought up, because this behavior now can't be attributed to the government. This has to be attributed to people. I don't think any minister tell them don't let nobody in there. You know what I mean?
I
Some
think
senior
sometimes,
person.
yeah, sometimes it's what's coming from the top, but then they don't stop and use their brain and think about it and just be humane, as you're saying.
You know, this is shameful. And the people who were actually enforcing it. You had a security guard there, poor fella. He minimum wage, and if he don't do what they tell you, they can complain to the company, and he can get withdrawn, and then he will not get back a regular shift, and he can be in trouble. I've seen it. Hotels call the security companies and make a complaint for the person, and the man in front of the person is not wrong in any way. They're still punished. That and nobody doesn't say, "Well, we're sorry," and no, because then they offended the guard. They don't want the guard back there because they think, well, the guard might be vexed with me, so they might not be as diligent as they used to be. I see it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that poor fellow there, you might criticize him, but he's holding on to his job.
Yes, because of what somebody over him, and that is the kind of thing, as you're saying, is so you might have, they have all these rules, but you've got to be humane. You have to be humane. You have to love each other, and that is what we are saying from the start of the show. We're talking about SADA and honoring each other and loving one another. It's in very, very very, very important. There's somebody here that's talking about the bus service, that they were there from at the bus stand from 12:30, and no bus came until after 5. But I'm sure you said that this was the administration that they bought new buses. What is happening? Do you know what's happening in the transport authority,
The transport
Mr.
board.
Franklin?
I heard
Transport board.
they bought 5 new buses, but when they came here, they discovered that 10 new buses, but 5 were left-hand drive. So that is send them back.
Excuse me. Say that again. I don't know if we can.
This
No,
is
we can't understand what you're saying.
this all the time. That they ordered buses, and 10 came, but 5 were left-hand drive. Now,
Yes.
how on God's earth something like that can happen and nobody noticed till they get here?
They went and they bought. This is why I say to you guys that you have to be up and up with what is happening. This is your country. They bought 10 buses based on what we're hearing, and 5 were left-hand drive. So they couldn't use 5. So they had to send them back. So did we get those buses back as yet?
I don't think so. From what I've been hearing, I was hoping that it was just a rumor or some sort of city joke, but it's too persistent now, and nobody will come and when they speak about that, oh, that's not true. Because I don't believe that we should be this shoddy.
Yeah. And someone is saying that it's probably the parts. They need parts, but I mean the bus service. I mean, we're paying more for bus fare, since this government came in, and the services has not improved.
The transport board was an employment agency, more so than for transporting people. You had so many people that didn't have anything to do with buses. You had event, they had a conductor and they had the driver. They got rid of the conductors and the driver then responsible for making sure the correct money goes into the fare box. But you had so many people at the transport board, a lot of secretaries who couldn't type, and couldn't take minutes. But a minister want a job for somebody, send my transport board to be a secretary. So you had too many people in there getting salaries that didn't have to do any real work. And as a result, the transport board had to pay them. And as a result, they couldn't maintain those salaries, and then they blame it on people. But no, it was too many people. Then they were stealing. I remember one day I called the transport board and I said I would like to speak to the general manager. This was a couple of years back. I said, if you go down now to the gas pump, the place where they put the diesel, I said, if you check now, you will realize that the people put half the diesel supposed to go in the tank. Go now. But what event? Because my information was that the fellow came to put the diesel in the tank. You use some type of dipstick light, and you will see how high the gas is. It didn't come up to that height, and they would then take the diesel and take it to a gas station in St. George and sell it to those people cheap. I called and I said, go to and check the pump, check the diesel now. Go now. They have just finished putting in the gas in the tank. Go and check it. So the gas was being stolen, tires were being stolen, parts were being stolen. Then you had people who, aided and abetted by Barbados Workers Union, refused to work until evening so they can get overtime. And as a result, rather than deal with that problem, they said no, they can form UCAL. UCAL is a cooperative owned by the former mechanics and Saroy. Somehow he managed to get himself as part of the deal because he was not supposed to be anywhere near it, but he became the president of that thing and remained president for the longest time. I think he's replaced by Hilford Murrell. But that cooperative started to get the transport board work. Instead of the transport board mechanics, you got rid of the mechanics and you have UCAL. But then UCAL was not doing a good enough service for the transport board because when you're paying that type of money, it's supposed to be out for public tender. It never went to tender. And they too then started charging the transport board too much money for the work that they were doing. So the transport board was then making a lot of people rich. People went in, we became chairman of the transport board, and then I thought set up a garage to fix transport board buses. Yeah, a former chairman. He set up a garage, he and some friends of his, very close to the transport board, and there were buses were being diverted to that garage to be fixed.
Wow. This sounds so there is, so you're saying there even in the transport board that there's corruption in the transport board?
Yeah, let me just we had a guy from Trinidad and he was fixing the buses. The bottomless body was an expert, fantastic mechanic. And he was diagnosing the problem again, he's fixing it. So did he get one fixed? Somebody would sabotage it.
Oh my Lord.
Ease off the little bunks so the oil will leak out, then the bus will run hot and then they said, but he wasn't fixing buses, he was fixing them. But as soon as he fixed them, he brought in second-hand transmissions for $6,000. And they were working new. None of those transmissions brought them, but you were sending them then to a place in Christchurch. Those buses, and they were fixing them for $35,000 each time. And sometimes those buses in less than a month was back on there to get another $35,000 job done. But all these $6,000 transmissions that man imported None of them broke down, but they got rid of him because this administration came in and vilified him myself and tell all kind of lies about him, talking about he had top of the line vehicle and that. It wasn't true. The transport board had a vehicle that they couldn't get fixed. But imagine when he came to Barbados, he was entitled to a vehicle. But he said, "Man, I can fix this one." And he fixed the one that they had dumped and drove it. And they say he got top of the line car. He didn't have a top of the line car. He had the one that took off the dump. But he was good at what he did. Fellow called David Bartholomew. Excellent at what he did. Had connections with that. And then he started to import parts. And they can assure you some of the parts that he brought in for $200, landed in about $200, they were being sold for over $1,000 from the company in Barbados to the transport board. All of these things happened. And they got rid of the man that was getting rid of the corruption because these people didn't want. You see, I told them, and I said over and over, this administration will not pass any integrity in public life act until these fellas get rich. Then you will pass the act. Because they had a feather in the nest first. A lot of things went down. The transport board was a den of thieves. They had an inquiry into it in the last parliament, but you know when that parliament is prorogued, those inquiries and everything finished. I ain't hear no more about it after that.
Oh Lord, it's as I was saying at the beginning of the show, is that they are scrutinizing themselves. They're not going to do it properly. They're not going to ask that minister the correct questions to find out how, you know, how checking for how money is being spent and budget and all of that. And they're not going to ask, how are they going to hold themselves accountable? You know, and it's going to take people from outside to do that. And that's why Barbadians have to rise up.
You see, the problem here is that the Auditor General can investigate any person, whether it's a government entity or a private person who gets money from the government. So if you were given a subvention for your school, the Auditor General is entitled to come in and check your accounts and to say that you ain't spending that money good, right, or whatever. He can report it out to the police, right? You can call it direct public prosecutions. The problem here is that the police, like Western Public Service, these are people appointed by the Prime Minister, the people that he talk. You will hear, there's a they call it Protective Service Commission. Protective Service Commission that just does the Prime Minister's bidding and worth salt. You know, but when you then turn around and install the people you want to be people. Look, you remember few years ago, some police officers sued the government. They lost the case here in Barbados.
Yes, I remember.
At the High Court. They appealed and they lost. Then it went to the CCJ. And the day when it was supposed to be argued before the CCJ, the lawyer for Barbados told them, don't bother, we're going to settle it. And you settle with people who lost and pay them thousands upon thousands of dollars and then promote some of them too. You lost a case. You lost it twice at the High Court and at the Court of Appeal. And then the government can say, okay, don't mind you lost, we can still pay you. And not only we're going to pay you, but we can promote you too. Who you think those people are going to be loyal to, huh?
Yes. 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 Who is the minister in charge of the transportation? Whose ministry does that fall under? The transport, the authority, transport board.
I think that's Santi.
I was wondering, I was going to ask you if it's Santia,
I'm not
because
sure. I think
you
it's
know
her.
one would believe that because we're paying more in bus fare, you know, they gave us this beautiful terminal, but of course once it rains it floods out, but it looks beautiful when it's dry. You have to say it looks nice, you know. It lifts the place, the appearance of the place, but then you sometimes you're standing there for hours and you can't get any bus, you know. So one would have thought that with the increase of bus fare, what did they use that money for? The increase in bus fare, is it to make the bus stands beautiful, or to get the by the 10 buses that 5 had to be sent back because they were left hand drive? What did they do?
The government does not understand its role in transporting the people of Barbados, and they're allowing the IMF to tell them what to do. You must either decide if the transport board is a social service to get the people to and from work, or it is a profit-making entity. But you're not going to have both. It's not going to be both. If you are going to have a situation where you want the people to get to and from work and be transported to and from school, if you decide that it's going to be profit-making entity, then the fees, the fares would have to be high, right? Because, for instance, if you get in the bus in Bridgetown and drive to Eagle Hall, it's the same fare as if you have driven from that same bus from Bridgetown to Paikwan and St. Lucie. The same fare. So it is the transport board is not intended to be a profit-making entity. It is intended to be financed out of our taxes. That's why we pay taxes for the common good. That is why you tax the people who got money and use it to pay for the people who ain't got. But this government has a way of taxing the poor. So when they moved the bus fare from, I don't remember, it was to $3.50, you know, a lot of people couldn't go work. People used to go to a bus stop when it was $2. And you shouldn't stop at a bus stop and the bus pass. That's because the veterans somebody who could come and beg for bus fare to get to work. That is reality. A guy who was the supervisor at the airport told me one day, he was so embarrassed one day. He spoke to one of his men harshly because he was getting work there all the time.
Yes.
And he said, Skipper, go and talk to me. So, man, let me come over here, let me talk. And he told him, man, look, when I get the money here when the week come, and I want to pay my bills, and I got nothing. Some days I go stand at bus stop and beg somebody for bus fare to get work. I don't got the money. So a fellow like that, when the bus fare was $2, and you go and beg, you pay $3.50 for it. If he can beg for $2, you already, when the morning come, you already feel that you got to beg for $3.50. The government don't understand that it must take care of the most vulnerable in society. You know, those people who that they're giving all these concessions to don't need the help. You rich don't need subsidies. They will take them.
Yes.
Because who will refuse money? Who will refuse money? But the people at the bottom need them. And when they throw a little $100 at you and say, oh, this is to buy books for the children at school, and then tell, well, mind you, this after the people bought the books already, you know.
Right.
And then tell, but you got to bring the receipt. You already went to buy 2 little books for your children to high school, and you're going
to be keeping a receipt for $100.
You know? I went to the supermarket just before I came home. You think I can't find a receipt now? You know what I mean? and then you minister can come and get involved in something as CD as that, you know. And then so they come up with a brand, a great idea. Or let the class teachers see who have new books. And if they have new books, then you will report the principal and then you get the money. That is so stupid. These books are workbooks. So they got to be new. Because you don't pass on workbooks, you write in them. They're going to do rub out the writing and somebody. So they don't even understand what they're doing, what they were talking about. Their workbooks.
Yes. Wow. Wow.
But,
You know,
and then they give you $100. I'm sure and people say, oh, it's better than none. It's an insult. There's no better insult.
what you're getting the feeling though, I think this is what I think. I don't know if you have any BLP person on here, because some people listen and they're very angry about the show, but I would really want you to stop and think about what we're saying. Think about the transport board. Think about the fact that we were asked to pay more bus fare. And and for you it might not matter for you to you because you don't take the bus, but there are people who have to wait hours for the bus, and sometimes there's no bus coming. They end up having to go and take the even some of the pensioners have to go and take the private bus, because they're waiting for hours and they can't.
Imagine,
Go ahead.
imagine a prison officer who is working a 12-hour shift, an illegal 12-hour shift, because you can't put by work 12 hours in the prison or any public service, but they have them working 12 hours. Now you don't have you don't have transportation. They used to go and send you a truck, a bus for you, but not around the buses. All them break down. They got one working, like only one bus in the prison working. I'm gonna want to get people to court and go carry them in the ambulance. You see the ambulance coming on, blaring, siren blaring. There's a boy saying, "No, you bring it to court." And so you should imagine a prison officer who does not have his own transportation, working 12 hours. When you're working 12 hours, you don't wake up at the prison. You have to wake up and get there. So let's say you spend an hour and a half on the road to get to work, and then you go going back after work and wait 3, 4, 5 hours a day. You really don't really live home.
Correct. You're tired by the time you get home. You don't get enough sleep. You have to get up to go again, and
No,
that's a question. Yeah.
They only sleep. You got little children that don't know you. You must have quality time with your children.
Somebody here is saying if we're still with the $100 for books. Yes, because people are still with the $100 for books, because there was even someone that I know that had to be helped for school with these books because it wasn't coming through for them. I'm saying to Alvin, guys, we have to be a little more, as we were talking at the beginning of the program, to be a little more, show a little more empathy. You might not have children that are in school and in need of this voucher. Remember, it's just a little something, but it matters to families. It does. It does. There was a young boy, and he could not afford the books, Mr. Franklin. Somebody who watched the program here connected us to this family. And it was a teacher who promised the little boy that when she gets paid, she is going to take the money out of her salary because the mother cannot do it, and she's a single family. So it matters. Don't say you're still with this $100 for books. It matters to people. It matters. And when you're giving something to somebody, don't just throw it down like it's the dogs, and you don't figure out how the people are going to get it. You're dangling the little $100 in front of the people, and you have not worked it out. It's inhumane and it's wrong. And I know that there were people, and I know that we don't want to say who they were, that had to go in their pocket and give that mother the money because the teacher did not have the money because she didn't get paid yet. Come on, let's be real. Let's be real. And that child has CXCs coming up, want to take the CXCs and want the books. So it's a real problem. You can't promise people something. You have no way of working it out. You didn't sit down and you didn't work it out. And that's the problem with this government. That has been the problem. Nothing is carefully thought out. It's the country is not being managed properly. And whether you are a B or a D or a C or a T, If you understand anything about management, you would know that something is wrong with that. So don't say that this with this $100 bills. No, man, because it represents somebody. Sorry, I had to speak on that, Mr. Franklin, because I don't like that attitude. But go ahead, sir.
No, you see, when you are better off, and most people in Barbados are not better off, you know. So people who forgot where they came from, you will always get that type of reaction from them, you know. Oh, it's only $100. Let me do something. Some people don't have 100 cents when the day come. My father, that's $100. So don't because they don't see it, they don't feel it, they don't have that kind of empathy because it didn't happen to them.
That's
people.
The thing.
We have people in Barbados who do not get a meal every day. I talk about children, and the children when they go to school, they're happy to go to school because they will get lunch, and then they start giving the children a lot of mush to eat. So even when they're hungry, they still can eat it. You know, because the diets, the kind of stuff that they were producing wasn't very good for the children. The children want it.
Right.
But some children, I tell you, go to school because there's lunch there. Because that's the only meal they're going to get. So vacation is hard for them, you know. And we want to be Secretary General, United Nations, all kind of crap, and got people in Barbados suffering very bad. And I'm not coming up with any plans or idea how to fix these problems. We have people who do breakfast programs at school. They think they do them because the children got all breakfast and they just want to get some more.
Yes, yes.
These are civic-minded people, you know. This is government initiatives. People who pull their own pockets, ask for donations, do whatever else to help with these breakfast programs in schools. While those children being school hungry, and when you're hungry, you cannot learn.
Yes, yes. You can't learn. You know, I remember when the children were off from school during the COVID, that we had to start to and some others to have to feed the children who are at home because those children were getting the school meals. That is what, and this is a reality of our country. And so we need to stop pretending. Barbadians, stop pretending. That's one thing I would say. Stop pretending. People are suffering in this country. Alvin, I'm sorry. Alvin is asking what happened because what this $100 given out a long time. So tell me what is really the problem with it. I know that is all I want to find out. And that's what we're saying. It was promised to the parents, Alvin, a long time ago. It's just that they did not work out how the parents were going to access this $100. And that's what we're talking about. So some of the parents, it was difficult for them and they wanted to get the voucher, but there was nothing in place in terms of the management of it. And that's what we're talking about, that you're giving something to the poor. It's almost like you feel like you just throw it down on the ground and things. So I'm sorry if you thought that I was saying you don't know what it is to be poor. I thought I probably misunderstood what you were asking, and if I did that, I apologize. I'm saying that, like the persons on here, Alvin, who are complaining about the bus. I think that people who drive, they don't understand that. They don't understand that it is real. When people are waiting sometimes 6-7 hours for a bus in Barbados, it is happening, guys. And you probably take the bus and you already know that, Alvin, but there are people on here who they don't know. They don't know, and frankly, they're treating the people just like how they treated the ones, Mr. Franklin, at the hospital, because they don't have to take the bus. Then it's not a problem. And everybody talking up in their nose and all, acting all whatever. And there's so many people suffering in this country, and that's what I'm saying. So we need to say, Alvin, what we need to say to our leaders is, listen, stop this traversing all over the world. You know, stop all of that and stop pretending that we're from this first world country, and start to deal with the issues within the country. You know, the bus service, you know, just the abject poverty. Do you think that in this day and age that we should have people with pit toilets in Barbados? Did you all know that there are people here with pit toilets?
We don't only have people with pit toilets, we have people with no toilets. Still, Owen Arthur had a rude awakening when he went campaigning in the city, and he discovered that there were so many people who didn't have waterborne facilities or any facilities at all. And that is why he started what people now know as the Urban Development Commission, because that was supposed to modernize the city and the urban corridor. And what had happened, a lot of the people who didn't have toilets, they were renting the land. So the landlord said, no, you don't put no structure on my property. So even though the government was offering some of them, the landlord, the people who owned the land said no, because they were afraid that somehow the people would get the land away from them, or some of them were just mean. So even though the government was offering, under one after they were offering, some couldn't access it because of the landlords. And those people, I tell you, I probably told about this story already on this program, where the people who don't have toilets, they use garbage bags.
Yes.
When the truck comes, they put it in the truck. And when the compactor hit it.
In Barbados now, do you know that, don't laugh at my ignorance, guys. Don't laugh at me. But do you know that I only knew that people in Barbados did not have, had pit toilets 2 years ago? I didn't know. And I know that people in Jamaica have pit toilets, but I did not understand that that level of poverty was in Barbados. Honestly, I was shocked. I had no idea.
You have some houses in the city that when you see them, they look nice. Just house fronts. Well painted and all kinds of stuff. But when you open the door, you step on dirt. No floor.
You mean dirt floor?
Dirt floor.
So you're saying in this country in 2023, there are people that live in their homes and they have dirt floor, and there are people with no toilets?
There's still some. I tell you, when the sanitation guy put it in the truck and he compact it, you know, you compact the garbage. Well, the contents of that bag, with the pressure, squished out on him. And he had to travel back to the sanitation on the back of the truck and the rear, because he was buried in the and this I know of 2 instances where that happened. It's not a one-off.
But Mr. Franklin, I am saying, I don't believe that the average person outside of Barbados would believe if we tell them that there are people here, just like how I didn't know until somebody told me I don't have any I have a outside toilet. I would not believe, I would never have believed that, because of the impression that is given of the country. And I think it is that impression that people are seeing and thinking that this is, oh, your country is being managed so well and everything is so perfect about Barbados. And it seems that way. We're little England. I didn't know that people had no flooring.
But Natasha C is saying that people that similar garbage incident happened out by me too. You know, so but we hash these things up because we have more pride.
Yes.
You know, and our pride is forcing us from acknowledging these things. We don't want people to know. There's no sin in being poor.
Somebody else is saying here, it is no like hazard. Some of my neighbors don't have a toilet. I know about the not. I know. I know about. And these people that don't have the toilet, they are part of a constituency. They have a representative. You understand what I'm saying, Mr. Franklin? There must be some way that we can help the poorest of people within our country.
When Oinafa was prime minister, a study was done, and the areas covered by the Urban Development Commission, that urban corridor, there were 6,000 people that didn't have toilets. Water
when was that? What year was that?
Arthur became prime minister in 94.
Where's my pen? I need to write these things down. Go ahead.
And there were another entire 600 were in the city.
Wait, not nationwide.
No, there were 6,000 in the urban corridor, which will take up a lot of St. Michael, the city itself, parts of Christchurch, and they had either no toilets or pit toilets.
So this was what year? What year you said?
I do not remember when it was done. I can probably check to see when the Urban Development Commission was formed, and that would then give me an idea.
Yeah, we need to look into that. Somebody here is also saying that the government, spoke of eradicating pit toilet in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2020. Google pit toilets Barbados and see related news items. And that's why I don't believe in violence, but let me tell you something. Sometimes I feel when I hear this nonsense, Mr. Franklin, as oh, I love the Lord. Sometimes I feel that any politician come back in my yard and asking me about no vote, I will throw water on them. Honestly, because this is the kind of thing that they do at election time. And
if you don't have a toilet, you can throw something else.
I feel like showing some water on them. Honestly, call me. I know people going to tell me I'm being violent. My Christian friends going to write me and tell me, oh, you shouldn't talk like that. But I just being honest. I'm not saying I'm going to do it. Okay? I will control myself. But that's how I feel sometimes. Because look at this thing. You think that we should, the 340 of you listen, you think that we should sit down and listen to politicians with this nonsense again? They're going to eradicate pit toilet. I say, let the opposition, let the people come up with ideas. What can we do about this situation? They will come to us every single year, all of them, B, D, P, Q, all of them, and fill up our head with all kind of nonsense that they promise because they want to vote. I am sick of them. I'm truly sick of them. And up and down on a plane. You know how much, airfare is very expensive these days. And you can be flying up and down on private jet. One trip, one way could have taken care of several toilets, pit toilets in your country. And you have travel all about the place. Huh?
Some person, these people like the grandstand but people are not benefiting. Some person asked the Google pit toilets Barbados and read the articles, and it says here, if Prime Minister Molly has her way, there will be no pit toilets in Barbados by 2027. Oinafa was saying so when he was Prime Minister. He wanted them gone. During today's session of Parliament, she sought approval for funds to tackle the issue. As she asked, how does the country reach 54 years and still have 4,000 odd pit toilets on its landscape?
What year was that?
This is published in the 18th of November 2020.
November 2020. Yeah. We this is why I'm saying, Mr. Franklin, that the people in the opposition, you need this is a thing. There's nobody in the parliament to challenge her. I mean, she's hardly here. But
Now
she
listen to this.
say, yeah, let me hear it, Mr. Franklin.
She said, I say to you that the time has come for us to treat this as a special project. Motley told the House to loud thumps of approval from MPs. Look at these clowns.
This
This
was
man hold their head in
2020,
shame.
2021.
This is 2020.
2020, she says that the pit toilet must be treated as a special project.
Special
I don't
project.
understand. So what happened to the project? This is the thing about it, guys. Hold her accountable. Stop sticking to a color. Stop. We are not children. Hold her to account, because and that's the problem. We're selfish. You have your toilet inside your house and you can go and flush. So therefore, you don't business about whether somebody have to go and use the bush and use the bush to wipe the bottom. You don't care about that. You don't care if somebody has to use a tree because you have a toilet. That's the problem with you all. You are selfish. And therefore, when you walk and skinning up and thing with us, everybody, oh, and bowing down. Now, ask her about the pit toilets.
No, but they, you know, this sound good. They get help to talk rock, and after that they forget. She was seeking a loan. They always want loans, a special loan. You know, they love loans. Isn't a special loan anything? Owen Arthur had the plan in place to rid Barbados.
What was Owen Arthur's plan to get rid of the pit toilet?
What he did, he went about digging wells, and the houses that didn't have toilets, he actually put on a wall back on a lot of them and installed a toilet in there for them. And it was ongoing. All you had to do is it was funding the Rural Development Commission. As I told you, I mean the Urban Development Commission. All that was needed was that in some cases that landlords give permission, or let me give you something, you don't even need permission from me. Take it from the Miss Land, Miss Ram place. They're looking at somebody could take it, you rented this land, you're not using it. The people have been using it for 30 years, 40 years, 47 years. So you want me to live like this? Sorry, government gonna acquire it for public purpose, for our public health, and that could work. No, they just talk, because it is the people who use those toilets that's go there by the platform, in front of the platform at night and jamming up with the white shirts, you know.
That's why I'm saying that we need to stop this, and that's how we started the program, you know, about loving one another and taking care of each other, and stop jumping behind red and yellow and color. That's children for sports day. We're not children, okay? Somebody's saying that it could be because it wasn't taken care of because of COVID or the shutdown. But we must remember, though, Easy D, that there were many things that happened in COVID. We became a republic in COVID because that was important. And many millions of dollars were spent to make us a republic. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we did what we felt was important, whether there was COVID or not. So that's not the excuse.
No, it can't be the excuse.
Go ahead.
Because ONAVA had nothing to do with COVID. ONAVA came into power in 94. So this was a project ongoing since 1994. You know? This is what this is all about. They just like to talk pretty and hope that people forget what they said last week.
Neville is a joker. He said, create a minister. When there was flooding, a minister of drainage was invented. So create a minister of pit toilets eradication.
I know who to put there. I know who to put there. Remove him from the prison.
You know, and the thing about it is this, that when we do not know about your travel, I saw in the parliament in Canada, where Justin Trudeau had to release to the parliament his travel information and his travel budget and his travel expenditure. When was the last time that we saw the travel budget for our prime minister and we saw the travel expenditure? When was the last time? And when you don't do things like that, then you're going to allow us to be asking questions. That's it. Somebody said we're beating up on the prime minister on her travel, because we don't know what the budget is. We've not seen her. We supposed to know. We supposed to know. Did somebody? How is she traveling like that? And how big is the entourage? How big is the spend? We need to know. That's important, right, Mr. Franklin? What you say about that?
The politicians during election time are very correct when they say, "We are your servants. We work for you." Now, if I am your servant and you are paying me, I should normally pay you. It's as simple as that. They acknowledge that they're the servants of the people, you know.
Right.
So if you are the people's servant, servants don't pay themselves. So the people who pay them should know how much they're paying. And every other democracy, those expenses are publicly known. The Prime Minister's household staff. Because let me explain to you. In the White House in the United States, the president pays rent. He pays rent, you know. And he has to buy his food. In Barbados, we have no such thing. So when the Prime Minister gets her full salary, she doesn't have anything to do with it because the people who cook her food are paid by the government. The people who clean her house are paid by the government. The house is the government, and she's using it until such time. So all of this, so her salary, basically, when you, if it were you, Marcia,
right,
and you had a cook and a person to wash for you and some person to clean the yard, when you finish get your salary, you're gonna start paying them out of your salary, you know. But the Prime Minister get all these things and she don't pay anybody out of her salary. But I tell you, even in the United Kingdom, I don't know, but it was years ago, I can't remember if it changed now, but the Prime Minister had to hire his own cook. But we come to Barbados and we give them everything. I get a full salary.
Who is that? Repeat what you said. I missed what you just said.
No, I said years ago, I discovered that the Prime Minister of England had to pay his own cook. I know in the United States, the president pays rent for the White House.
Oh.
He buys his own food. He pays for his own food. But in Barbados, no such thing. So we are paying for her food. We are paying for her travel.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the travel is not for the purpose. Barbados' purposes. The travel is for her to go there and canvass and campaign to become the Secretary General of the United Nations. That is her bill, not ours. But who's paying it? We are paying it. And while we are doing it, people are going in the bushes to do their business. People who work outside the street can't even get a chemical toilet.
Yeah.
Alvin, who is paying?
You know, I think that if people are honest. Go ahead. There seemed to be a little delay. It's on my part. There's a little delay, so I didn't hear you that you were speaking. So let you finish, Mr. Franklin.
Well, Alvin asked who is paying for the travel? The Treasury. Whenever they're traveling, the ministry, whichever ministry, if it's the Ministry of Labor, they'll do a cabinet paper. If it's the Ministry of Health, they'll do a cabinet paper. And the cabinet approves the travel with all the entourage. And everybody then gets a per diem. In addition to the airline tickets and everything else, and the cost of accommodation, all of that is in there. And we don't see or we don't get any reports of, oh, they went to this part of the world and they came back and they got this for Barbados or they got next for Barbados. We don't get that. We don't get those such reports. So trust me when I tell you, when COVID was on,
yeah, you know,
there was not less traveling, and we were getting our business done, weren't we? A lot of these meetings they attended on Zoom, but when you're on Zoom, you don't get per diem. You see, that's the problem, you know. You don't get per diem when you travel on Zoom.
Yeah, yeah. Ms. McLean is right here. She's laughing, but let me please pardon me, guys. there's a delay, so sometimes I'm not hearing all Caswell completing in what he has to say. So pardon me, it seems as though I'm cutting him off, but I'm hearing after. But let me just play a little video here, guys. Let me play this.
I don't only speak for speaking's sake. I want to see what I'm showing you. That's why I'm doing this video now. Now I'm here in the Orleans Beckers land actually, and this is where some people have to come through. All right, where they live. Okay, and the conditions some people are living under here in Beckers land. Now this house I'm by, this has no water facilities. If you look, you're seeing there's no electricity, no toilet. All right, and the person who is here is partially paralyzed. A person who has done a lot for this government. All right, and they're living here under these conditions. I wasn't going because I do not put people's faces onto videos. Okay, but what's happening here? When you see this is the okay. Look at this. Okay, falling down. Look here. It's just this. This is the back of the home now. This is all there is. See, there's no toilet, bath, anything. All right. This is the condition people are living under. You don't hear was flooded. They had rain. And we are accessible only by boat, as far as they're concerned. All right. But this is what how people are living here in Barbados. It's supposed to be a developing country. All right. We want people to notice this. This isn't talk. This is the truth. All right, people. Thank you.
First word.
You know, this is Mr. Franco, um, that there are people who are living without toilets. I had no idea, but you see, you talked about what Prime Minister Owen Arthur was doing, and I can guarantee you, I don't have to go and look. I could guarantee you that he was not doing as much traveling as this Prime Minister is doing. We are not. We are a country without a leader. We do not have a manager. We don't have a prime minister. I am saying it because there's no way. I run organizations and businesses, and if I would be absent so many times, it's impossible. I cannot do a good job. I will not be in a good. And if you don't have people that are competent, that you have raised up to say, okay, you can, leave them there. They know what they're doing. They can't make any decisions on their own. They are not equipped. You guys are just this is over your heads. And we do not have a prime minister in Barbados. And we need to let the world know. And I'm not exaggerating. Look and see, there is not one ministry that is working. None. If this was a CEO of a business, they would be fired. There is, because no department would be working. There is nothing. A simple $100 to poor people, the people cannot get it. Bad management is horrible. And it doesn't mean that because you wear a red shirt, you need to have compassion and think about people. Miss Caswell, last comment, and then I'm going to have to go to Miss McLean.
I was just going to ask Maxine a question. I know Max, having been Minister of Foreign Affairs, she would know a lot about non-resident ambassadors. I think, but you ever heard about a non-resident Prime Minister before?
Good evening. And I laugh, but it is it's a serious thing. It's interesting because as I listened to you talk about the travels of the Prime Minister, a couple of things came to mind. And as Caswell pointed out, I was Foreign Minister, and to be honest, I was the member of cabinet who traveled the most. The Prime Minister, both Prime Ministers with whom I worked, traveled, but nothing, not in the same degree. And the reality was that there are issues that can should be addressed by your ministers as well. Now, the question I would ask the Prime Minister, outside of all that we are seeing in relation to ambitions or alleged ambitions about secretary generalship and so on, heading, is it that you do not trust your ministers to go anywhere and represent this country? Do you think they're not capable? I see now and again
Nail,
some do travel.
nail on the
Uh,
head. They're not capable.
no, do you not trust your ministers to represent us? There's a process of briefing that takes place. And you asked about the budget. The previous Prime Minister did not travel much. And I would say that categorically. I could go back and look at my cabinet minutes because I have copies of the minutes, and I can list from the time we started in office in 2008 until 18 because I have my cabinet minutes for cabinet meetings. And in cabinet meetings, what happened? Travel by ministers had to be approved by the cabinet. Now, in addition to that, and I want to talk a little bit about process because we're supposed to be educated people, and we should be able to sit down and speak to these things objectively. When ministers travel, and certainly when I travel, we usually would have sat with our government information service officers and brief them. Now, what I will tell you is that you would see the press release in the newspaper in most instances, and I can tell you that the press that I was dealing with did not necessarily seek to elaborate on some of those things, but you do not know. The other thing was you would get announcements indicating that, the Prime Minister was going to be out of the country and so on. And we do not hear that. There are allegations about the Prime Minister traveling on a private jet or private jets. Now, I will tell anybody that before I can say yea or nay to that, I would have to ask the question, what is the government of Barbados and the taxpayer ultimately, and taxpayers of Barbados paying for that? It to me that given the problems of interregional travel and most of the Prime Minister's travel is not in the region. You have two meetings of CARICOM. There's an intersessional in February and the main meeting in July, and there may be one or two other meetings. There are meetings of COTED, which is the Council of Trade and Development, which it would be your Minister of Foreign Trade and so on, their tourism. So when you are traveling, if in fact you are traveling on a private jet, let us know why and show us the cost savings, if there are
Yes.
any, and on whose jet you're traveling on, because we know the hassles of air travel. But I mean, if you're doing international travel, we are still serviced by international airlines. So there are a number of things there. The issue of a delegation is important because I can recall, and if you go and look at the footage, I recall when the Prime Minister went to Ghana in 2019, when that infamous paper of the flag of Barbados being there was this suggestion. Well, I saw there are photographs, and I might be able to find some on my phone because I have friends in Ghana and so on, as you know, Marcia. And some people sent me some photographs, and it was a big delegation. Now, anybody can accompany the Prime Minister anywhere, but the question is who makes up the official delegation and who are the persons outside of that official delegation. And where there are persons outside of the traditional delegation, that would be public officers, a permanent secretary, the Prime Minister, depending on where she's going, the minister may be traveling with her or another minister, depending on the nature of permanent secretary or personal assistant. These are the people, and sometimes you, depending on what it may be, their person. But you hear again, this is hearsay, so we would need confirmation or refuting of it. that you see delegations of 16 plus persons. As a matter of fact, somebody alleged the other day that a close relative travels with the prime minister all the time. I don't know. I don't know if the person is traveling in the capacity as a close protection officer or what. We don't know. Tell us who, who the official delegations are, and more importantly, give us a sense of what it is. And as you say, when you come back, what are some of the accomplishments? We hear a lot, and so I when it comes to travel, I will say travel is necessary. But when it came to the previous administration, where people saw, and you see again, somebody put up there. Good evening, Hoy. Good to see you. Good to see your message. RC, we're having, well, there were some problems this morning with flow, so I don't know if you're having problems with the internet as well, but we seem to be having a bit of challenge. But basically, as I said, travel is important, but we need to know the purpose, the outcomes. But at the end of the day, it seems to be, and you're correct, that the prime minister is everywhere except here in many instances. And it is not, from my perspective, it's not a personal or a partisan reaction, because people say, oh, the former prime minister traveled a lot. And I could tell you categorically, I could probably tell you the trips that he would have gone and the purpose. And I always know when the prime minister attended a major sustainable development conference, climate change and so on, and it was in Fiji, I think. The cabinet paper was made available to the press, the document that's normally available, the shared, and the current prime minister, who was leader of the opposition at the time, made a big song and dance about it. But a lot of what was done then is now informing the work that she is speaking of when it comes to climate change and sustainable development. So in essence, the work that was done then was belittled or ignored, but it is the very work that is now creating the basis to sustain a small island developing state, championing the cause of others. So I really would want to say, Marcia, that Barbadians want to know, and if they know, then they probably better understand why. And if they know and they figure that it's unnecessary, they could also say so. Or they could speak to who else might represent.
I think what you're saying there is just fair. I think that if we have put the prime minister there, and they're asking for it in Canada, they ask for it in the US, in any democracy, I believe that the PM needs to be able to declare to us about her travel, what is the budget, what's the expenditure, what are the outcomes of the trip, how did that benefit the country. I believe all those things need to be told to us, and I think that is fair. Whether you are BDP or whatever letter you represent, we don't represent any letter on here. What we're saying is, I think that is fair, and if you can't understand that, then we can have a discussion with you, because that is fair. Come on, we're adults here. Yeah. But I know you came to talk about something else. So this education reform that we are having. I will try to put up the thing you sent me. I'm having some challenges with the internet,
I think you're stuck there.
but we will do our best. I'm stuck. I'm getting stuck.
No, I'm
Yes.
hearing you now. Yeah, go ahead. Sometimes you are,
You're still stuck now.
Okay, well, go ahead, Miss McLean.
You're going now. You're going now, Marcia.
Okay, all right, no problem. Go ahead, Miss McLean.
Okay,
With
but thanks.
education.
Oh yes, education. I think many Barbadians, this is the second time, but it's a continuation of something that would have been indicated by the current administration, and that is reform of the education system. And I think there was a major conference yesterday in which there was the provision of some outlines. Now, I think, first of all, I want to say that before I can even get into to looking at what some of those things provided, I would tell you the basis on which any evaluation
Can you hear her, Caswell?
No, she
form.
last time
My question is, if
evaluation.
you're
Okay.
talking, we need,
We're
for me, when I
having-
look
we're
at what
having-
is the rationale or the main reasons for
Martin,
the proposals
you-
that we are being asked to
you-
consider. Yeah.
The last thing we heard was when you said any eval. I suspect you
Right.
meant
So
the last thing we heard.
yeah, if try taking off your camera, Miss
Okay.
McLean, and see
Okay.
if that will help. And I will have to do the same when I'm ready to talk
Okay.
as well. Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Is that
Good.
better?
Yes.
Okay, what I was
Yes.
saying is that there has been a set of proposals presented yesterday. I think it was the press conference at which the Prime Minister herself spoke. I saw because I saw clips of it. I don't remember hearing any clips on the radio of the Minister of Education speaking. I heard a clip of the Prime Minister, a clip from the Chief Education Officer, and I believe I would describe her as a project person, former doctor. I think she's Dr. Ida May Denny, former Chief Education Officer, if I remember correctly. But I didn't hear the Minister of Education speak. My point I'm making is that for me to really, well, first of all, let me before I talk about how I would look at those things. I'm a little confused as to where we are in that process, because today, I thought yesterday, the bit that I saw and the documents that have been circulated, and I should have them hopefully somewhere on my tablet as I speak to you. There's a document called Reimagining Education in Barbados, A Bright Future for Every Child. And it goes through, it's a colorful document. It talks about what we must do, why we must do this basically in terms of reform. Then it talks about what kind of person do we want to develop. That is, of course, I guess, suggesting what are the barriers to student success, what are we proposing? And then it actually goes into an overview of the proposed curriculum for 3 to 5 year olds, and so on. And I am saying as I look at this, I have to ask myself, before I can say this is good or bad, what exactly do we have in place now? And why are we changing some of the things we are changing? And so, for example, this is what is proposed. I was going to tell you what I would do, but I'm going to talk about some of these proposals because I want people to study them. And having studied some of these things, there's some questions I want to ask people to ask. But I'm looking at this now, overview of the proposed curriculum, pre-primary, typically 3 to 5 year olds. Prerequisite skills, readiness for formal education, introduction to coding and robotics, functional foreign languages, introduction to entrepreneurship, introduction to hospitality and civility. Now, I am trying to remember, my son is 32 years old. Frank, that Caswell celebrates his, remember his days at St. Stephen's Nursery School. And while I have no difficulty with prerequisite skills, what those skills are, um, uh, now I am asking myself, what are you introducing a 11-year-old to this? Well,
Are you hearing her, Caswell?
No, I'm not hearing her.
Yeah, she might have to. We're having some flow problems, all of us. How is mine now? Any better, Caswell?
I'm hearing you, but you're sticking. But I'm still seeing. I'm hearing you, but your picture is freezing. But I'm hearing your words.
Okay, but go ahead. We can hear you. So speak, Caswell, on the issue. You know what she was talking about, the this child reform, education reform.
Well, I see they want to start this education reform in the next couple of years, and what it looks to me is like they're trying to change our system to be the system that you have in the United States, where everybody gets a diploma from there you go to school, whether you learn anything or not. You know, why are we trying to change our education system to what other people have that is failing? Do you remember the people in New York, especially, and a lot of other places in the United States, are trying to recruit Jamaican and Barbadian teachers because our teachers were successful at teaching the kids. But we want to know how an American system. That's what it looks like to me. I haven't read the entire document. Somebody sent it to me and it was a bit long, so I had to scan it. But what you need to do in the beginning is to teach the 3 R's. The rest will come along. Somebody think about civility, you teach that at home. You know? But we are failing our kids and adopting things that you're seeing outside of Barbados that have not worked for those countries. They ain't working out. That's the way you want to introduce it out here. I hear advantages with all middle schools and all kind of nonsense and things. I don't know what these people come up with. I think it's harebrained schemes, I think they call them.
Yeah, Marcia, I am back on. Let's hope that we won't have
Yes.
as much problems. But I was going through those things, and Caswell, I picked up where Caswell was saying something that I was going to make the point. What are we required to do as a set of tools? If I'm supposed to learn to write, I need to have a pencil, a pen, a piece of chalk, or something so that I can start to form letters. And so in essence, I need to be able to read, to write, to spell, to do basic arithmetic and so on. I understand the issue of coding and all of these things, fine. But when you're going to tell me, let me pick up the thing here again, that my 6-year-old son or daughter at that age is to be introduced to TVET skills and competencies. Are we looking to prepare a set of persons for the world of work? That's not what education, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. You know, because you put these things here, and I'm asking, where are the basics? Because they talk about core curriculum, but they don't spell it out. They tell me that they're going to introduce the entrepreneurship. I believe I introduced the first course in entrepreneurship at University of West Indies KFL campus. I was part, and I'm sorry that I'm being an ophthalmologist by saying I, but I have to say, I was one of the people who developed a program, and David Thompson, prior to 1994, was Minister of Community Development, and he had a program called Youth in Business. When the current Prime Minister was Minister of Education and the Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme was developed under her, I was one of the people who would have been asked by the staff of that unit to come and help develop the program, teaching the program and mentor the program. And all the programs, I can tell you, that were done in entrepreneurship in Barbados, whether it was the Youth Business Trust, I would have been part of its development and implementation. The SEED program that was introduced at KFL prior to 2008, part of that was in my initial work, was in developing that. The point I'm making is entrepreneurship, the issues that you want to do there, you can put into an English class, into an arithmetic class, but you don't have to have introduction to entrepreneurship. A child who has to solve arithmetic problems can be taught, problems can be set around doing business, buying something, investing, or whatever. In other words, I believe that a lot of what they're seeking to do or what I presume that they're seeking to do in relation to that at 3 and 5 years old is to get a child thinking about business or whatever. But do you put it in a classroom? I think that's nonsense. I think somebody who is an educator, an early childhood educator, come and tell me why they feel the need to break it out in that way. The point I'm making as an educator, of course, of adults, is that you can embed certain things in a course. I remember a friend of mine telling me that in teaching English, one of the things that she did was to bring calypsos into the classroom in the same way that they had me reading Chaucer and Shakespeare and Sean O'Casey and all of these writers and whoever and Robert Frost, the poet, etc. We can also use indigenous materials. So my thing is that you can embed things into education, but when you're going to tell me, no, you're going to pull up, I believe foreign languages are important, because one of the problems that we in the English speaking world face is that we are not bilingual or multilingual. But when you start to, introduction of TVET skills and competencies, I really would want somebody to tell me how that is done, how much of a class of a timetable is going to be taken up with that, what exactly you're going to be doing. Because, it sounds as almost like you're tunneling certain people into a number of things. Then it goes on to this notion of junior college of excellence. What is that? We have had an educational system that has worked. Somebody probably went to North America, lived in North America, or read something. And in fact, you have this junior college, what was it? Junior college of excellence, typically 11 to 14. Curriculum including social and emotional learning, Barbadian citizenship, and IT. Attitudinal assessment, career guidance. 11 or 14, you tell me what it's going to be? And I got to speak Bajan here. Now, what the heck is that? Listen, at 11 years old, I didn't know what I wanted to be. At 11 years old, I wasn't even sure what subjects I was good at. I was good at mathematics until I reached third form in secondary school. And for some reason, my teacher who was teaching me, because maths is an interesting subject, if you understand it, like my sister before me who got all the maths ability and is an actuary and all set of other things, mathematical. My brother who was an economist, and people who taught economics in a highly mathematical way, mathematical. But you're telling me now that you're going to give me career guidance. Are you tunneling me to go and work in a hotel or something? No, this thing is crazy. Because at the end of the day, I should be doing some essential subjects that would allow me to do almost anything later on. It talks about, well, again, coding and robotics. I have no difficulty because I think that, and somebody could explain further why that is important. Then you have a senior college of excellence, typically 15 to 18. Now, my question is, what exactly is wrong with the system that we have? And let me share some of the wrongs that I think we have. People criticize the 11 plus exam. And I think it is the chief educational officer referring to as a once in a one-off or whatever. The truth is, if there's a good way, before I can condemn it, because I will show you the benefits of it for me. And I come from a family of 10 live siblings. There were 11 of us, one died. And I can show you how the educational system functioned for and against them, depending on where they fell within that list of 10 children in my family. But so if you're telling me that there's a problem with the 11 plus exam, let me know exactly how you're going to replace that. One of the things you're saying is continuous assessment. So having done the continuous assessment, will you be allocating based on performance in pretty much the same way that the 11 plus happens? If that is the case, I want to be sure that the continuous assessment is fair. And I'll give you an example. I taught at the university when my son was born, I was a university lecturer. If I were not the mother that I was and I wanted to make him a lazy child, I could sit down when he had assignments and pretty much help him to do them or do them for him. in the way that he goes to school with homework, that is to all intents good. And you know, so I don't know if the continuous assessment is going to be based on stuff that you do and assign. I shouldn't use that word. I used to tell my students don't use it in my class. On assignments that you do and hand in, is it done by continuously testing you, not one exam, but multiple exams, whatever it is? I can tell you, Marcia, for a fact that a lot of parents right now, where you have school-based assessments at CXC, a lot of parents do their children's assignments, even if it means sitting down and probably dictating to them. And I was happy when I remember when my son was doing those things, and I asked him because he was doing something with business, and that was the area I taught in. But he refused to let me look at it. I said, you could at least let me read it and tell you if it, you know, if there are weaknesses and we can just. He said, no, Mom, this is my assessment. And he went, I didn't even ask him what grade he got in it. But as far as he was concerned, he did not think it was.
Your mic is off, Maxine. You're not hear you.
Okay. Okay, we're not hearing her. We're not hearing you, Miss McLean. So go and come again, because we want to hear what you have to say. Yeah, go and come again. We just take it easy. We flow with what Flo is giving us tonight. We flow with what Flo is giving us tonight.
You know, Maxine was making a good point there, right? Because when she was 11 and stuff, she didn't know what she wanted to do. But I can tell you, when I left school, I don't know what I wanted to be. When I become a soldier. I'm now in industrial relations. I did not even know that I had something called industrial relations when I was at school. You know, I know people say I'm good at it. So you can't decide for children at age 11 or 6 or whatever they want to do. And I didn't. Trust me when I tell you, I did not know what industrial relations up to now. When people ask me what it is, I always tell them, you know, well, get a dictionary, because I really don't. There's so many different things for different people, but I did not know what it was, and I practice it now. That's what I do for a living. So could there, unless they decide that they're going to channel certain children into different age groups. So if you come from a certain place and your parents are poor, you're going to channel you in this area. If your people are rich, they're going to channel you in this area. No. The common entrance exam is the best thing. If you have the ability, you go, and not this continuous assessment nonsense. This is foolishness, because continuous assessment, as Maxine said, and I agree with her, who's doing the homework?
Yeah, who is actually doing it?
But when you hear about the junior colleges and that kind of stuff, the Prime Minister, and I must say this, when you appoint some person to a ministry, those people decide that they're experts in the field. You have to make a fellow a minister of health, he thinks he's a doctor. You put a person in education, they become an education planner. The Prime Minister was in education for a while in after the administration. So somebody thinks she's an education expert, because the first person I hear talking about the junior colleges was the Prime Minister. But when these people come about with these things, when these papers are designed around what the Prime Minister said. These are the Prime Minister's ideas that they're putting into action. These things don't come from the ground up. They come from the Prime Minister, and you have to sort out your reasoning, sort out your planning according to what the Prime Minister has said. Because I heard him in my own ears talking about the junior colleges, you know. So when you see them come and put it in the paper, this is the Prime Minister's point. That these educational professionals now fashioning their papers, their skills, whatever, they're using their skills to put the Prime Minister's desires into fruition. Whether they make sense or not. And knowing this Prime Minister that don't usually make sense, the Maxine is back.
Yes, Miss McLean, we're traversing tonight. We still can't hear you. No audio. Try turning off your camera and let's see if we can get the audio. Oh wow. Oh wow. Miss McLean, like is like you're gonna have to come to the roadside parliament. You have to come to the roadside parliament, Miss McLean. But you know, people on here are very I think there seem to be some teachers on here as well, because you know, when I look at what the program is that they're setting up, this reform that they're talking about, Mr. Franklin, I can't help but wonder how you're going to teach all of these things to children who I'm hearing that they're you know, more than in some cases, some classes up to 60% of the children you know, in high school can't read. That's what I'm hearing. Anybody? I don't know if there's any teacher. I was trying to verify that statistic before I came on, so I'm not sure. I'm hearing that. I heard that from somebody who teaches. I was trying to see if I can. Anybody knows what is the percentage of the literacy rate among our secondary school students? I've met quite a few of them telling me they're going to take CXC, Mr. Franklin, and cannot read. I have to be teaching 14, 15, 16-year-old children phonics in this country. So when I heard education reform, I thought that it would be something that would be able to help all the, you know, children with remedial work and be able to read and so on. How are you? I don't understand how are you adding to illiteracy? How are they going to do all of this coding and so on? And a lot of the children can't read unless it's for certain children.
That's what I was telling you just now. It is for some people. This education thing, they're planning for their friends and their hierarchy up there. You know, the people who got money and who got the clubs with them. And then for the average man out there, trust me when I tell you, I know of one of the principals who got transferred. Who transferred a few hours before the, you know, that episode? Who had actually arranged with people to come to their school to teach children, this is a secondary school, how to read.
Yeah.
Because those children somehow got through the system, get into secondary school and cannot read. And
yes, it's true. It's a lot of them, Mr. Franklin.
Yeah. And she had actually arranged with friends of hers who are not retired, but they were in this area activity, remedial learning and thing. And of course, now they're going through the shoot, so those children can get promoted next year to a higher form, and then a higher form, and then out. It is in the secondary school, up, and out. So if you can't read, you can't code. So the basic education you want to do is the 3 R's: reading, writing, arithmetic. You know, if you can get them, you can do anything. Like when my children were smaller, I would tell them, unless you are doing a foreign language, everything is English comprehension. Everything else that you do is English comprehension. So don't get intimidated. You can do anything you put your mind to do if it's written in English. But no, these people want to come and give you this pie in the sky nonsense, not understanding that you have to have the basics first. You have to build the foundation. I have never seen a house to build the roof first. You have to build a foundation. So these are not foundation things for these 6s and these the primary school children and the 6 to 11, that kind of stuff. These are not. They will learn them later. Why are you hurrying? You can get me off of the thing. This is exactly what I complain about when you push the children out in the sun when they come for kiddies kadooment. They will get adults eventually. Let them do the adult things when they get there. Right now, you have to teach them to be children and teach them how to the basics. And everything you got to do basics first. You don't start up. You can't start
you have to defer. When I realized, again, 2 years ago is when I realized that, because I teach CXC English, and you know, I teach accounting, Cape accounting, and all of that. And when you have children getting ready for CXC, and the little boy come and tell me he's in 5th form, another one in 4th form, I could not believe it, Mr. Franklin. In fact, when what was happening in COVID, he lived in the community, so I would let him come and sit on the veranda and give him the book through the window, because I feel like, oh, on earth they're telling him he's going to take CXCs and he cannot read, and I had to have the phonics and teaching him what the long vowels and the short vowels. And it is then that an educator told me, because I was going along and boasting about Barbados is 98%, but she was saying to me that about 60% of the children that are in secondary school, I don't know if it is true. I probably shouldn't be repeating it. I was trying to find out, Mr. Franklin, before, but I'm just telling you what I was told. And that it is a high percentage that can't read. And I see it all the time. Even with children preparing for the common entrance, they're preparing them for the common entrance. But how are you going to do the common entrance if you can't read properly? So when I heard it say education reform, I'm thinking, you know, that's good. But now they're acting as though they have the basics, you know, covered. And this is what is happening with this government, and it's sad. And you don't want to be criticizing everything, because something like education, we need to be able to come together on it. But how are you going to come together with this? As an educator, I look at this and it just looks like nonsense. I don't know. Am I being hard? I don't know.
But everything is going wrong in this place. Right now, one of these new principals, but he's not new, but he was there for a while, but he's newly appointed. Can't get his timetable sorted out. Children are going to class, and now you put 2 teachers in the same class at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
The large school, I'm ashamed to tell you. And he bullying 2 teachers to teach the class at the same time now. You know, this nonsense, because you put the wrong people in place, these are the things that will happen.
Yeah. You know, Miss McLean, can we hear you? They want to shut you up, man. Can I hear a word from her? And this is such an important topic. Can't hear her. My God. Try your phone, Miss McLean. Try coming on your phone. Go off and try your phone. I agree. I think that this is what is happening, and it bothers me so much, because I came from such a poor background. I see Kimar is on, so we're going to let him go ahead. But I came from such a poor background, and if it wasn't for education and God, I don't know what would happen to me today. You know, so this matters to me, and I understand this stuff about the coding, and I understand that you want to get the children computer literate, but I would have liked to see more basic reform in terms of literacy in it. I would like to there are a couple of things, but I wouldn't take this time to go through all of this. But education is a big thing for me, because that's how I came out of poverty, you know. But Kimar, good evening. Let's see if the internet is treating you better than it's treating us. Good night.
Hi, good night, everyone.
Good night. Good to hear your voice.
Hey, thank you. Same to you. Always a pleasure.
We're getting ready to come down on Sunday to the roadside parliament, and I can tell you, this education, we have to put this on the program, because this is a big one. This is a very, very big one that we need to discuss. As you can see, we are trying. Miss McLean was trying, but she had to leave about 5 different times.
Yeah, well, education is one of the most important planks in the economy, one of the biggest budgets we have, by the way. I think the education budget was getting over $500 and some million every budget. So the education ministry is very vital to how a country operates. The success of the country depends on how educated the population is. Uh, our traditional education system worked for us to some point, um, but in this day and age where we focus on, we have government nurseries, and then from nursery level we have the primary school level. Uh, then after primary school you go through the 11 plus, but at the class 4 stop, the 11 plus is only maths and English. Uh, so many people who fall through the cracks at that level in terms of not being captured the traditional subjects that the common entrance would offer. So a person who's not good at English and you can't read properly, the chances of you passing maths exam is going to be hard too, right? And if you can't comprehend, you can't write a composition. So you can't pass the 11 plus. So if you happen to pass now and you fluke it and you get to school, when you get to the school, then you struggle.
Yes.
Right? So you have a large section of the population falling through the cracks at that level. And what the government is doing is just herding people in schools. So if you get within a range of a mark, they just pack you to St. George Secondary, Grantley Adams, and schools they have traditionally considered the newer schools, right? And only a few will go to the Harrisons, the Common Mary's, the Queens. I went to St. George Primary School, and at St. George Primary School, only 3 students went to St. Michael's in that year group. About 2 went Queen's College. I think 1 went Harrison's College. A couple went Lodge, but for the most part, most of them went Parkinson, Grantley Adams, Springer, St. George Secondary. So I hardly saw anybody who I had as a primary school colleague. I hardly saw them after I left primary school. Where we met back up was at Community College, BCC, and then maybe University of the West Indies. But I say all that to say that our education system is up for some change right now. The IMF, and I know a lot of people might not want to believe this, but the IMF has a big say in how this thing is handled. And the reason for that is that the government was supposed to, since before COVID, the government was supposed to cut the budget to education. So Avinash Prasad came on to an interview and said that the government could pride itself on ring fencing 2 important budgets during COVID, and that was the education budget and the health budget. And use the term ring fence to protect them from the spending cuts of the IMF program. So all the other ministries were cut during COVID except education and health. The problem with that is that most of the students were home, which means that the government achieved significant savings in terms of the education budget. But that came with significant learning loss because these children were home doing nothing, and this online school was not functioning adequate. And the Prime Minister, who was the person who had the EduTech program when she was Minister of Education, if the EduTech program was fully functioning as it should, that learning loss that took place with the students during COVID, and this is going to get worse, by the way. The loss of learning from COVID, even up to now, the schools still have not settled back down properly for students to be learning. So you have a large section of students entering into the workforce soon who just experienced a massive learning loss during COVID. Like, sometimes I have hope when it comes to the participation of parents, but then there's not the majority. This is the minority where some of the parents just can't help the children because they're too struggling financially. They don't be home because they got to work all the time. And even if they work, some of the parents themselves ain't have that level of education that they could help to contribute to the learning of the child. They might can't afford to pay for private classes or whatever to help the children. Then on top of the fact, some of the teachers just don't care. Once they get a salary every month or so, they don't really care too much about the children's education. So that's something that has changed in Barbados, where we had teachers who actually cared for the students and who actually participated in the lives of the students to help push them onto higher levels. But that has changed now, where we are having teachers in the system who just care about the paycheck. And then you have some principals who think that they own the schools. And then you have some management systems in schools that, I mean, it just needs to be changed. So I am pro change, but I'm not changed to the extent where education now becomes a financial decision, where the government has to decide, well, we gotta cut down the size of classes now because the IMF tell us we gotta cut the budget,
Right.
or we gotta cut the curriculum because we can't afford to pay the teachers for the level of subjects that they have to teach. Right?
You know,
Sorry, go
someone
ahead.
here is saying that she disagrees with some of what we're saying. She said, my daughter took French at 2. She took Spanish for 6 years, and now she's learning Korean. We cannot just wait till children get older. And I think that's something that Miss McLean said, that somebody on here said that.
She disagrees about what exactly? I'm not following.
She's disagreeing. I think it had to do with what Miss McLean was saying.
Marcia, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, but no, I don't know what that lady is disagreeing. I agree that children can learn foreign languages. Yes. I was talking and I was very clear about that, because one of the things you would understand if you have ever dealt with children and languages, children learn foreign languages well when they're early. So nobody's disagreeing with that. I was talking about including what I'm saying is, when I read what I read in relation to, let me see if I can pull it back up here on my tablet, on what it said here, going back to it said overview of the pre-primary, typically 3 to 5 year prerequisite skills, readiness for formal education, introduction to coding, etc., functional foreign languages, introduction to entrepreneurship, introduction to hospitality and civility. Now, my question is, how, you see, they've put these things in blocks. They have not explained. My point was, and I spoke specifically to, and I'm not sure how much she heard, the introduction of entrepreneurship. And I'm saying that you can embed elements of those things in an English course, in an arithmetic course. Those are the points I was making. Foreign languages, yes, and I made the point that because the English speaking people typically are not, they do not speak other language, it's important that they become bilingual or multilingual. That I said. So I don't know what she's disagreeing with. So maybe she didn't hear because we were having some challenges.
Yeah, and I think I just want to say this quickly. I think one of the things, because I'm an educator as well, and I think that children should learn that, and I agree with Miss McLean that they are very, very quick at that, and I agree with the person, and congratulations on your daughter. But what we have here, what is happening, that as Kimar so eloquently put it, we had some deficits during COVID. and we have a general problem with reading. And I know that it's difficult, especially for older Barbadians, to accept that and to believe that, because we're supposed to have, you know, one of the higher literacy rates in the world, but it's not so anymore. So when we hear about education reform, the hope was that we would have been taking care of those basic things. And I think that's what she was saying. Kimar, I'm going to let Miss McLean just finish up what she was saying. And I know anything else you know, whatever we don't cover tonight, we're going to cover at the roadside parliament. We can't let the people forget that we're not going to have any disturbance with any flow, because we're going to be face to face, Mr. Franklin, public meeting, right? And right there at WESTBURN Plaza, WESTBURN Mall, and the right the Westbury Road and Baxter's Road, 5 o'clock on Sunday. No, tell Flo, go away, Flo. We're not going to have no flow problems, all right? So go ahead, Miss McLean. Take a couple minutes. And
no, I'll be very quick, because I think we had quite a bit of time trying to figure out, but you know, what was happening with the system. But I would want to say that people need to read what has been presented. My challenge, however, with what was presented is there needs to be expansion on those things. For example, when you make reference to you know, these boxes that they have prerequisite skills, what exactly are they talking about? And so for me, as I listen to what is shared with us, for me, I think that any information on reform, and I agree with Kimara that there needs for additional change. There's been reformation taking place. You know, we've had reforms over the years. You know, but I think they need to spell out for me, or I need to be able to identify from what is shared with me, what are the reasons for the proposed reforms, what are the objectives of those reforms once they're articulated, how these things will be introduced or applied, these reforms, and what are the projected or expected results or outcomes. Because at the end of the day, if we're looking to impact the quality of education in a way that is positive, that it serves to develop the student and create the kind of individual that is spelled out in the document that's been shared, we need to be able to assess it. And the other question I would ask very quickly is, given what we do now in terms of curriculum, in terms of educational philosophy, for example, in terms of policies related to students, and you know, what do we have now, and what are they really changing? Because to put some broad brush titles and so on doesn't help me determine if we are in fact improving on what we have, if we are jettisoning altogether, throwing away altogether what we have and starting afresh. So that's the discussion. And the very last thing is that I think I kind of alluded to the point earlier that we need to be clear from what the ministry is saying, what exactly or where are we with this process? Because I got the impression that some people felt that this was a decision taken, and they, you know, in terms of working through details, and they're looking for a response. But I get the impression that from what the chief education officer said today on the radio, they are still looking to get inputs to help them to shape and finalize what they're planning to do. If that is the case, I am not so sure how ready they will be, given the way that the systems work for an introduction in 2024, at least in a comprehensive way, unless they break it down and do it in some kind of modular or step-by-step way.
Yeah. So thank you, Ms. McLean. Somebody here has a question for Kimar. Kimar, they say, what are the future jobs that will be available in Barbados? Does the education reforms, or do the education reforms geared towards the future job market?
Well, during COVID, the Prime Minister said that Barbados, we need to find, well, let me backtrack. She said that it was her plan. She was promising Barbadians 20,000 jobs, right? 20,000 jobs. And she set up what I call a jobs and investment committee. And this Jobs and Investment Committee had 8 persons on it. This person, the persons on that committee, I can try to see if I remember all right now. Former Prime Minister Ornafa, the former Finance Minister Chris Sinclair, Dodridge Miller, this was the insurance guy, Dr. Anna Lee Bob, Senator John Rogers.
Oh Lord, not him again.
Yes, he was on it. I can't recall it. That's about 5. I can't recall the others right now. But these 8 committees, which were chaired by these 8 persons, met twice. And the role of this committee, and by the way, ONF has passed now, but the role of this committee was to create 20,000 jobs in the Barbados economy. That was what me and Motley was saying, right? This Jobs and Investment Committee, I wrote an article to the Nation newspaper. I did a video on it as well. That this Jobs and Investment Committee recommended to the government of Barbados to go and borrow $200 million from the IADB. And the signature on this letter was Ryan Strong. And he was saying that in section 4,
He like signing.
right, he was saying that in section 4, this Jobs and Investment Committee to find 20,000 jobs, he was saying that this specific committee made the recommendation to the government to go and borrow this $200 million. I checked it out. I put it out there to the public. This committee met twice, and ONF was dead. Since then, no changes were announced. Nothing happened. They were not meeting. And this was since COVID. But early, Ryan Strong could be sending a letter to borrow $200 million on recommendation from this committee that was not meeting. Right?
In all fairness, though, Ryan likes to sign things. All right, he loves to sign. Give him his death warrant, and he would sign it.
But that's worse than a death warrant. But that's corruption, Caswell. And that's misrepresentation.
Yeah.
That's misrepresentation that you could be saying that this committee gave you the advice to borrow this money and the committee was not meeting.
Ryan Strong.
Yeah, but the question is, for what are they borrowing $200 million if you're talking about creating 20,000 jobs? What exactly would they have done? So was that money actually borrowed, or?
The money was borrowed. He wrote a letter to the president of the IDB, and this letter was included in the newspaper, signed by him. So I wrote back a letter to the editor of the Nation, and I also wrote it to Barbados on the ground, and I also did a video on it, querying how come he could have his signature on this paper to the IDB to borrow this $200 million. They were saying that it was only loans for COVID to help the government achieve fiscal space, but they didn't have anything about any jobs. Right?
Marcy and Kimari, you might know this because somebody is asking the question there, whether this was a committee that she had put former Prime Minister or an affiliate Prime Minister on, and he was categorical in his position that he was not asked and he did not agree. So I don't know if that is the same committee. I think it might have been that one, but I remember him making a statement that he was announced as being part of a committee and he had not agreed to any such thing. So it may very well be the same thing.
But I think it's 2 different committees. She put him on an eminent persons committee to report to the government, which he refused. And then when COVID hit and they had the opportunity to, but she was saying they have to find ways to tackle the job loss in the economy. So,
sorry, go ahead.
Right. So
I was going to ask the question. Sorry, you go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
So on top of that, she then put, she said it was supposed to be all the former finance ministers of Barbados. But at the time, Sir Lloyd Sandifer was not feeling adequate to participate. So that's how we ended up with Chris Sinclair and Ornafa. And Ornafa, who he was the chairman of it. So he actually accepted, because remember he went down to Guyana to oversee the elections, and he was also appointed as chairman of LIAC. So he was actively working with the government.
Yeah, but I'm talking about a particular committee. I remember that, but I wouldn't stick my neck out on as to which one it was. But there's something, and now that you've raised the issue of employment, because I was listening to an extract from yesterday's press conference, and the Prime Minister made reference to, there were two things that she raised, and I actually have to go back and listen to see if I can understand how it ties in with the changes that are proposed. One had to do with the significant number of persons who leave Barbados because they cannot find employment, and they took brain drain. Now I would have spoken about this whole issue in many places. Because of technology and all of these things, I do not necessarily subscribe to the notion of brain drain in the same way. The reality is, even if a Barbadian is living outside of Barbados in these days, that individual can in fact make an equal or even greater contribution to the development of this country from abroad. And I'll give you some examples. We have Barbadians who are in STEM subjects, and Caswell will like this. There's a gentleman called Dr. Arden Warner, and I'm sure he would not mind me calling his name. Arden Warner is a physicist by profession, a Commonwealthian by schooling, Caswell, and who has done extremely well. Now, if Arden had stayed in Barbados, he migrated because his mother was living in New York, and because as a very bright young man, he was given the opportunity to choose from a series of schools overseas. Now, he obviously would have been an exceptional student while at Combermere. Left Barbados and went overseas, studied physics. Typically, at this point in time, most students studying physics, and certainly at the time that he went to the US, and I can tell you when that was because he was going to the US the year that I was coming back from graduate school. So that was in 1980, 81 or so that he was going to look to go to university. And between then and now, this gentleman has done a lot of work in physics, but he has also done a lot of research into very applied things. And one example of what he's been able to do has been to patent, license, produce prototypes and commercialize solutions, plural, to cleaning up oil spills. Now, I never did physics, chemistry, nor biology when I was at secondary school. But what he did was to use what they call, he was able to magnetize oils. Ferromagnetic technology. If you go and Google his name, Arden Warner, you would see the kind of work that he's done. And he has actually revolutionized the cleanup of oil spills in a way that does not use chemicals. And I'm saying that Barbados can benefit. And I can tell you how he's still waiting to hear from the Ministry of Energy. It was something that was started before the government changed in 2018 on an offer to assist with the cleanup of the site of the old mobile near the Barbados Hilton Hotel. And I put that in there, but he's just one example of what is done. So his expertise, his innovations are things, and part of what he wants to do, and I'm sure he doesn't mind me saying this, is that he wants to give back to this country. And I'm saying that the experience that he got overseas, he could not have gotten it here in Barbados at UE, he would have gotten a very good education, but he would not have been able to access the resources or find himself in a job that would allow him, while he is working, to do his own research with the company's blessing. So I think that when we start to talk about brain drain, we need to talk about brain gain, GAIN. How do we facilitate the partnering of our people here, our young people, our university graduates, our secondary school graduates, our other tertiary education graduates, to partner with Barbadians and others outside of Barbados to explore opportunities. We talk about entrepreneurship. That's one of one of the things to do. But you know, it sounds good to say we're losing them, but if they stay, are we providing, or can you provide? The government of Barbados, as long as I've known the government, does not have defined. I mean, let's say we go back to from post-independence, so the entire time that we were an independent nation, does not have the financial wherewithal by itself to do a lot of things. Of course, local businesses and so on have not invested in the same way in research and development, but even then, a lot of our businesses are not, you know, businesses in the business are not in the business of inventing things. They're probably buying and selling and whatever else, to a large extent, distribution and that kind of thing. But I believe very strongly that what we should be looking to do is to find ways of utilizing the resources. And sad to say, Marcia and Frank, Caswell and Kumar, and those listening, very often, and I've experienced this, so I'm speaking from experience before somebody asks me how I can say this. Very often, Barbadians abroad have offered to connect with Barbadians at home, and they have either gotten very slow responses or no responses. The gentleman that I spoke of, I would have approached persons in the University of West Indies, and it took a little while to get them to engage. I'm not sure what has happened, because once I made the connection, I stepped back. You know, explanations were given and so on, because, so those are examples. So not only is he able to probably look at some point, maybe manufacturing something that he created and you know, and so on here, but he is also in a position to work with science graduates. We talk a lot about STEM, you know, from where he is. Same thing with doctors. There's something called telemedicine. You know, there's online teaching and whatever the case may be. I have seen it and I know it can happen. So I think one of the things that we have to ask ourselves is, how do we perhaps in reforming our education or in utilizing the products of our education system, how do we facilitate those networks and the using of the social capital that exists in the thousands of Barbadians that live outside of Barbados?
Marcia, yeah, I have the information here, right? So just wait until Maxine finished her point that I could contribute. No,
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
About the Jobs and Investment Council of Barbados established by the Prime Minister during COVID. As I said, on there was going on for the former Prime Minister, and he chaired the Industrial Transformation Group. And that was to create, as I said, 20,000 jobs in 18 to 24 months. That's what the Prime Minister said. 20,000 jobs for Barbadians. This was in 2020, by the way, May of 2020. She said that the government was going to give 20,000 jobs in 18 to 24 months. She also said that Professor the Most Honorable Udine Barato, she would have chaired the Services and Creative Economy Committee, and that would examine how we can train everyone to world-class standards in the delivery of goods and services in Barbados. We had Derek Foster, who is chairing the Retail and Commerce Committee, which will undertake how we can guarantee food on everyone's table. And John Rogers, again, he was tasked now with securing that food for everyone's table. We had Dodridge Miller, who chaired the finance and insurance group, and he was tasked to look at how we can fuel investment in Barbados, again over 18 to 24 months. We had Tony Hoyas, who was chairing the Housing and Infrastructure Committee, which was to look at how they can leverage the capital in the Housing Credit Fund. There's a government fund, the Housing Credit Fund, to provide low-income houses for Barbadians. We had Dr. Anna Lee Barb, who was set to chair the Digital Transformation Committee, and that was supposed to examine how we use technology and innovation to solve some of our everyday problems. And we had our former finance minister, Chris Sinclair, chairing the Trade and Logistics Group. So that's it, right? No, I said before that Ryan Strachan, what he did was corrupt. I wrote an open letter to him, and this letter was published in the Nation newspaper, and it read something like this. Dear Mr. Strachan, this letter is an issuance of grave concern with the government of Barbados and the IDB loan seeking to borrow US $200 million and the heightened perception of corruption and unethical practices within government. Taken from the summary of Transparency International, this year's Corruption Perception Index paints a grim picture of the state of corruption worldwide. The pandemic is not just a health crisis or economic crisis, but a corruption crisis, with countless lives lost due to government corruption undermining a fair and equitable response to the issues of the day. In my letter to the Nation newspaper, featured on Barbados in December 2022, submitted by myself, I raised an alarm to sections of a letter to the acting president of the IDB, signed by yourself as minister in the Ministry of Finance. Component 4 of that letter to the acting IDB president said that the loan is for economic and fiscal strengthening post-pandemic. So that was the borrowing loans for after the pandemic. I went on to say that the blatant red flag in component 4 of your letter is the use of reasoning for the borrowing of this loan, which are the recommendations from a progress report of the measures prioritized by the Jobs and Investment Council. Investigations into the missing report revealed that at no point in time did this Jobs and Investment Committee or Council submit a report or publish their findings and recommendations to the public via consultation, town hall, press conference, written media, or else. The Jobs and Investment Council met in April 2020, and according to the Prime Minister, the members were expected to report back to the government within 2 to 4 weeks. I said again, the Jobs and Investment Council met in April 2020, and according to the Prime Minister, they were supposed to report back to the government in 2 to 4 weeks. Some developments changed the nature of operations of the committee and these working groups, because that's what you were calling them, working groups. And since being established 2 years ago, former Prime Minister Onafa has died, and the former Finance Minister Chris Sinclair is now working abroad at the World Bank. Please do not allow the announcement of a VAT-free day to distract from the circumstances of a non-transparent environment. Therefore, the allegations of unethical practices and heightened perceptions in government, hearing that the minister may have falsified a letter to the IDB and claiming the use of recommendations for the Jobs and Investment Committee as a reason for borrowing that loan. The non-functionality of this committee is hereby in question and raises a challenge with queries on if the committee did in fact made the recommendations to borrow the 200 million US from the IDB as contained in the letter. So in a bid for transparency, Minister Strong, you are being asked to publish this progress report mentioned in your letter as the reason for committing Barbados to an additional $200 million in debt. And the publication should include all members of this working group and their pay and compensation, the absent report, which will clear up any allegations of wrongdoing against the minister's name. Minister Strong addressed the public twice since that time, since alarms were raised about this report, both in Parliament and in press conference, and he made no public response to the issues raised. So analysis from Transparency International shows that corruption not only undermines a global response to the pandemic, but contributes to a continuing crisis of democracy. And I went on to say, I wish to hand this matter over to Mr. Darwin Doty, who is supposed to be the newly appointed head of Barbados' anti-corruption unit. With regards, signed Kimar Stewart. And that was printed in the Nation newspaper.
And you got no response from. I'm here writing down because this is what we talk about, Mr. Franklin, accountability. And here is a young man. He's 28 years old, and this is what I think he's 28. Am I saying the right age? You're about my son's age, 27, 28, right?
Yeah, 28.
28 years old, and he's asking for accountability. And when you listen, I'm writing as he's talking, and I'm saying at a minimum, we want to know what did they use that money to do. First of all, it seems like they got the money. It appears, I will say it appears, right, that they might have got the money on the false pretext, okay? Because based on what you're saying here, from what I have here, the committee met twice, and we don't know if the committee still exists and why they got the money. What did they do with the money? There's so many things. Where are the 20,000 jobs? Did they get the 20,000 jobs? Can we identify these jobs?
The only jobs the government has been creating in Barbados are call center jobs. They get
Call center.
They got a lot of little young ladies go down in the harbor and in other places, and they answer the phones and they put in people warranties and that kind of stuff. And the people treat them like hell. That is not how you're going to build this economy. One thing I remember, it used to be smoking in my younger days. People used to do the smoking and stuff. Now it's call center, and they're not well paid. And as a matter of fact, contrary to the laws of Barbados, they might not work on bank holidays and tell them they're working for people in the States, and they're doing it so the people in the States work on bank holidays, so they're going to work on bank holidays too. So all bank holidays, they ignore them. They might get Independence Day off in the United States, but they don't get here in Barbados. They treat them, and nobody says down and do anything about these people because they're saying, because these people don't got the level of skills, because they want they're forcing them through school and not teaching them properly. They end up having to do this menial work, and it's called centers. And that is our problem here, right?
So those are the jobs. So they're doing a lot of data entry. A lot of people are getting jobs.
Not data entry, call center. You answer
call
the
center.
phone. Somebody TV ain't working good or something. So you receive this call. And they treat them. I get calls, and I have to go and represent people at some of these places on a very regular basis for some trivial things, but they treat them badly. And the Ministry of Labor seem not to have told these people, look, when you come to Barbados, these are our laws. You got to follow them. They do what they like.
Yeah.
And the same thing is, but this, I want to say this though, because there's something that I think it's when Maxine was talking about.
Speak a little closer. Somebody tell me that they're trying to get a mic for you, but speak a little closer and a little louder. We want to hear you.
I scanned through this document that Maxine was referring to, and one of the things that stick out at me that they can't help but always wondering about abolishing the common entrance exam. These people do not understand why the common entrance exam was so important to poor black people in this country, you know. Poor black people did not get to Harrison College and Common Merit School, those places, because one, you had the money to pay. So when Barra abolished that system and said everybody get free secondary education, you were to pick if you did well, you went to the schools and they come down. I have no problem with people going to schools that you see have high flyers, because you must have high flyers. Because if you try to create everybody the same thing, you're going to get a lot of drones from one of the players. No, you have to have high flyers. That is why you see that guy from Common Merit, the physicist. He's not the only one I've seen that great for Barbados. The other guy also who did his in chemistry, had a lot of patents. Common Merit will do it. But we have to allow, and our system isn't broken, you know. It is the people who have to come up with policy that are broken. That is our problem. But if you abolish the common entrance, then you're going to have allocations will not be on merit anymore like how they used to be. But this government is going back to the 50s and 60s and all again, because remember, even with the pensions, I love to tell that pensions used to be 68. Tom Allen Brown 65. Now people care about 68. They care about everything. So we're going to abolish common entrance. We can go back to the old system too, where the people who had money can end up in those schools. You know? So I don't know. We gotta get with these people, you know.
Yeah. There's so many issues. I know that Miss McLean was saying that the diaspora, that they have a lot to offer. I, for one, believe that. I've seen with my films that, you know, the diaspora supported our films and allowed us to make one film after the next. We were finishing films and we know we could show them in Barbados, and then we would travel, and the BAJANS would buy out the cinemas, and they, you know, and they supported and encouraged, and it wasn't just their money. You know, they put us up. I traveled with all these number of children, and they from Barbados, and they put us up in their homes and took care of us, treated us, the BAJANS overseas. And I keep saying that we need to, all of us, not just the government, but us that live here, we need to show a bit more respect to them and be more open. Probably not respect is not what I want to say. I want to say that we need to respect the ideas. I hope you can hear me and I'm not sticking too much. But the ideas. So here's Wendell Greenwich saying that he's offered to help with reforming nursing in Barbados and he's been turned down. V. Hoy saying that she tried to help out at some school and they didn't want her at all. And I hear that a lot when we used to travel a lot with the films. We would hear that you know, we're not open, and so we don't mind them sending the barrels down and sending the things, but we don't want their ideas, and we don't want their experience overseas. And it's not just the government, it's an attitude that we have here locally as well. You know, people are trying to send you know, equipment for the hospital, and they would tell me how difficult. Some of them just give up, you know.
Marcia, I thought we had a lot of time, you know, and it was holding talk about, but this 3 hours is really, you're sure your watch working? Because this 3 hours goes so fast. You know, I just sat down here. I wanted to talk about estate accounts, but the banks are unfair and people. Because when you are grieving, you lost a relative or somebody close to you, and they have money in the bank. You have to go to court to get this money. If the person had a will, you get the will probated and you get letters testamentary. If they didn't have a will, you get letters of administration. What these two documents do, these documents put the person that they're granted to the recipient of those letters, with the same rights and powers as the person who owned the account, the deceased person. But the banks make it very difficult for the recipient to get that money from you. That's first of all, they tell you have to open an estate account. All that means is that the bank will get some money for opening an account. Because the person has an account there already, and letters of administration or letters testamentary give you the power to operate those people's accounts. That's what it does. That's what it, and you get documents from the court, got the court seal. And the banks give you hell. I can call names, I'm not gonna call them right now. Give you hell trying to get the people's money and carry you through all kinds of hoops. I know the credit unions have adopted that stupidness to talk about estate accounts and all kind of nonsense. Why do you need to open an estate account? There's an account there. I can go to the bank. I remember a friend of mine died a few years ago, and I'm the executor. I go to the bank and they tell me, I said, listen to me. The law says that I can withdraw money from his account or deposit money in his account as he could have done it. So I want a check written to the wife because she was a beneficiary and I want to go through now. And they tell me, no, I got to open this estate account. I said, okay, look, I want a check. Give me the money in cash. Because the law in Barbados still is that I must accept a check from you. A check is not compulsory for me. It's not legal tender. So you got to give me cash. It took me 3 hours in the bank and they called the lawyers and that kind of thing and they said, you got to give money cash, we want cash. So then they said, well, they're going to give me a check in the name that I wanted it in. After 3 hours. The reason being, the bank's always trying to find a way to get their hands on people's money. And the lawyers that work for the banks try to frustrate people. And before they tell the banks what they're doing to the relatives of the deceased persons is wrong, you come up there and of course the banks want a little better money, but the banks always want some sort of little fee. Then you hear the credit union say they don't open an estate account, so they're taking the check. Some person brings a check and say, but in the deceased name, and they say, well, I never estate, but they put it on the account. But no, we have banks making laws in Barbados and making it difficult for the people who are grieving. When you are grieving for your relative, you don't want the stress. You have enough. You lost somebody, a dear friend, and or mother, father, brother, sister, whoever it is you lost, and then the banks in Barbados, as a matter of fact, will not even take the letter of a certified copy. I had an instance where somebody went to a financial institution and they said they want the original. I said, you can't get the original because the person did business with more than one financial institution. So if you take the original, they can't take it to somebody else. So what you need to do is to look at the document, make sure it's certified, and then you can say, seeing that I have seen the certified copy and certify yourself. So they can't do that. They want a certified copy. I said, okay, I'm a justice of the peace. Let me certify it for you. No, they want one from the court. I said, but what happened is you don't trust me? Because right now you're telling me that you're defaming me, you know. There's defamation of character. You're telling people that you can't take my word. You're defaming me. So they start backing off. But they want documents. Even they don't even want to take a certified copy. They make life too difficult for people to tap estates. I see it, I complain about it, but nobody will do anything about it. How about you got an estate account? Estate account, my foot. That's for the bank to get some money for opening an account because you know you're gonna pay the bank for everything these days.
Kaz, not interrupt you, but I gotta sign off now, so just want to have a good night. But I gotta sign off now. So have a good night, everyone.
Yes. Thank you, Kimar, and we're going to see you
Thanks
at
a
the
lot.
roadside parliament. We need to hear more of that. That was brilliant. Thank you very much, Kimar. We have 2 minutes left. So continue, and then I go to Maxine.
Now, Angela is saying to show me the original, I guess, if I copy. They did it, but they refuse. These people make life difficult for people when they go into the banks. You go to the bank, they don't want to tell you what's in the person's account. I have letters administration from the court. I got letters testamentary. What more do you want? But I will talk about this another time because I want to talk with the public trustee and administration estates as well. But that will take a little
Yes,
bit more time.
but we will do that at another time. But I mean, this is we had some disturbances, but it was another great show, educational, informative show. Miss McLean, what you want to say to the people? We're, of course, you know, Sunday we out on a roadside parliament. You coming?
On Sunday? What?
Sunday it's 5 o'clock.
I actually have a meeting at of my constituency branch on Sunday afternoon. So it would have to be after that. That goes till about 6:30 or so. But I just want to say that that's an opportunity to share some of this information. But Council, before I say anything about education, as a final word, you've spoken on something that has been a concern for a number of people, and it can directly affect children's education. So I can raise it here. The extremely long time it takes to get wills probated or letters of administration dealt with. And in the interim, families are stuck waiting on the resources of parents, for example. You know, so that can impact the quality of life for the beneficiaries in a household where something like an insurance policy or savings in an account or a vehicle that should be sold or something to help, you know, provide maintenance for children is these are the practical challenges. But I want to say very quickly, Marcia, that, and like Kimar and most people, educational reform is necessary. I expect that it has been an ongoing thing. What is suggested in the document that has been circulating is that there seems to be a plan to radically change some things, because what ideally as a management person I would say to education officials, and I was trying to multitask for a while. I was listening to the brass tacks program today because the chief education officer was there. But they need to show in their documenting and so on, or speak to what obtains now and how things will change, because at the end of the day, the average individual will want to know, not, you know, these fancy languages about competencies and whatever. This is what a child at 3 to 5 is learning in nursery school. This is what we plan to do to either enhance that, scrap it, or, you know, or change aspects of it and go through so that a person can look as a parent, as a student, himself or herself, trying to understand when I move from 12 to 16 to whatever, or to walk through with a parent or guardian or, you know, some teacher or whatever the case may be. So share information on what it is you're planning to do differently, and what, you know, so because we can spend a lot of time using a lot of flowery language and putting together beautiful documents, you know, but at the end of the day, we're talking about the very lives of our children. And Kimar has gone, but I noted in listening to the chief education officer, Kimar spoke about a commission or committee of 8 when it came to job creation. There's also a committee of 8, and in the words of the chief educational officer, 8 persons dedicated to educational reform. And she went on to explain that, so I'm going to listen. But I believe, Marcia, that this is something you have to come back to, because it is an important issue in the lives of our students and for all to come if these changes are made in, you know, but we need to hear a lot more. And I would say to Barbadians, pay attention, whether you have children in school now in the educational system, or you may have in the future, or simply to give an input on a matter that's going to impact this society in a significant way. Changes must be beneficial, and they certainly should not end up disrupting what we have and leaving, certainly in the short to medium term, leaving people worse off, or, you know, having negative impacts. And thorough investigation, explanation, and the taking of the advice of those who want to make suggestions for improving, all of those things should be taken on board. And again, thanks Marcia, Caswell, and so on for what is usually a very, Barbadians are complimenting the work that you're doing, Marcia, that it is opening their eyes and ears to a lot of things that they typically did not pay attention to, but which they realize is very important to their very existence in this country.
Well, you know what? Thanks for that. But we have a great panel. You know, you guys take the time to come on each night, and I said, wow, are they going to be ready enough to come on and to serve the country? And just before the general give the final word, I want to say happy Thanksgiving to those in Canada. We have quite a few of or those in the diaspora. You know, I respect them. I respect and they are logged on, wanting to know what's happening to their beautiful country. To those in Canada, I want to say happy Thanksgiving. And I want to say that I hear you all about bringing in some teachers, because this is very near and dear to my heart. And we're going to get some teachers on the program and try to have just a section on education reform. And the very last thing I'm going to talk to you about is the roadside parliament. It's going to be Sunday. You should know it by now. Sunday, 5 o'clock. And you bring in 3 things. You bring a chair. You bring some food items to put in the barrels. I have some barrels at my place there, and they're empty. So we can replenish some of the places that have been giving, you know, donating food. So we bring some food items to help, you know, others, and bring your ideas. Okay, so that's it. Your chair, the food items, and your ideas. Of course, bring yourself, and let's see each other. We're gonna try to go live. We're not, you know, we're hoping budget tight. So we're trying a little thing. I hope that it works. Okay, but we not won't forget the people in the diaspora who come on every night. We're gonna try to go live. Okay. Final word to the general. Go ahead, General.
Well, I'm not going to detain you all. I realize that it's 3 hours, even though it doesn't seem that way. But I'm saying now here, probably I talk too much, but
No.
you know, but it is great to be here, and I'm very happy that people are responding, because, like Maxine said, people are giving this show rave reviews. And it's thanks to you, Marcia, because if you didn't provide this platform, you know, I don't know what would have happened to the education that we are providing that is so necessary for this country, because a lot of the things that we talk about, people tell me, I didn't know that. It's true. And sometimes they will go and then show them the legislation or whatever. So this is serving a useful purpose, and I'm very happy to be associated with it. And I just hope that you will all come down, and we will talk on Sunday.
Yes. No interruptions from Flo. Oh, love you all. See you on Sunday in person. Okay. God bless you all. Bye-bye. Have a good night. Good night.
Yeah.
Happy
Bye-bye.
Thanksgiving to those in Canada. Bye.
Bye-bye.